Hello!
Hi!
And welcome to our Thoughtless Tree.
Welcome.
Where today we are going to rank every film we've seen in the cinema this year.
Mm-hmm.
There is 48 of them, which I thought it'd be more than that, to be fair.
Yeah, some of them we have seen more than once, though.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we've gone almost every weekend and seen like 3 or 4 films in one going. We do that. We just make a big marathon day of seeing everything because we have unlimited passes, so it's free to see films. We just, I enjoy that, a big marathon day. I think it started because of the Barbenheimer thing, and it was like, this is a fun experience. Let's do that a lot. And I really wish I could open a cinema all around that idea. I'd call it Marathon, and you'd just pay to get in, and you could stay there for an entire day, and there's proper food facilities in there to talk about the movies between them, and it's just set up like a marathon thing. But that's not what today's about. We're ranking all of the films. Yeah, 48 of them. There's some big films we've missed. These are the disclaimers. There's some big films we've missed this year because either one of us was ill.
Or we've been on holiday, or...
Yeah, it could have been holiday. Or it could have been the fact our local cinema it's not small, but it's not a massive one, which means it doesn't necessarily show everything or doesn't show them for that long. There's some I'm disappointed I missed. Like I missed Kneecap. We missed Challengers. Yeah, we missed Alien. Other things.
Yeah.
And a second disclaimer, we both made our own separate lists. We haven't seen each other's yet. Obviously, there's the disclaimer that these are just our lists, our opinions. That also probably would change. If I rewrote the list again now, it would probably be different.
Yeah, it was kind of just like a first thought that comes to our head kind of list, I suppose. Instead of just sitting down thinking about it for ages. Yeah. It was just a...
I mean, some of them are different as well because there's some we've seen recently and they're fresh in our minds, and other ones we saw early on in the year. And sometimes when you have a long time to think about them, you're like, actually, I feel quite different.
Yeah.
Or actually, it was better than I thought, or worse than I thought. So that might affect it as well. I don't imagine anyone's going to get... I mean, I think my list is a controversial one, but I don't imagine anyone in the comments on our kind of channel are going to get really angry. This isn't like Letterboxd.
There's one specific film that could cause...
Yeah,
a bit of controversy around where it's placed.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think this is like what I've seen of the website Letterboxd, where people get super angry about any rankings you place that's different to theirs.
If anyone disagrees with our opinions,
tell us.
Leave a comment saying why you disagree, and we can
tell them you're wrong.
Also, our kind of idea moving forward from this list is every weekend after we've seen new films, we're going to put it into the list where we think that the new films would fit in the list and kind of keep an up-to-date list on all the films we're watching. Yeah,
which is difficult really because ranking them in order is a lot more difficult than doing a tier list or just giving them a rating, I think, because some of them are so interchangeable and are so similar in the rankings they could go up or down. And when there's a lot, I think in the middle of this list, when there's a lot that are all pretty good films that there's not much between them. There's 10 spaces, any of them could go up or down because they're all so similarly ranked.
Well, I will say, I think that there are only probably 3 films on this entire list that I consider bad films.
Okay. Possibly the same, to be fair, yeah. We're going to make...
And even then, I think 2 of them are bad in my opinion, and then the third one is more bad, but it makes me laugh, so it's...
Are there any things on your list that you think will annoy me?
Yes.
I think there's something on mine that will annoy you. You look very... All right, okay.
Is it Godzilla x Kong?
No, it isn't. It isn't, actually. Have you put that really high?
Well...
All right, should we begin then?
So yeah, we're going to start at number 48, I suppose, and then make our way to number 1.
Yeah. So number 48. I'm really annoyed there isn't 50. If I hadn't been ill for The Dark Knight and... what's the other... There's something else we missed.
We were going to go see The Mummy and The Matrix.
Oh, yeah, we were ill for... Yeah.
But they kind of... I think we were ill or...
Yeah, this also obviously includes...
re-releases and remasters.
Oh, that's something I should have done. I was going to read you through the whole list we got. So the full list we got, I'm going to read it as quickly as I can, and it's probably going to become very inarticulate. This is roughly in the order we saw them, although some of them we forgot and added on at the end. We have Wonka, The Iron Claw, Argylle, One Love, Madam Web, Wicked Little Letters, Dune Part Two, Imaginary Fight Club, Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire, Monkey Man, The First Omen, Seize Them, Godzilla x Kong, Civil War, Back to Black, Tarot, Love Lies Bleeding, The Fall Guy, If, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Crow 1994, Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, The Watched, Inside Out 2, Bikeriders, Horizon, The American Saga, Kinds of Kindness, A Quiet Place Day 1, In a Violent Nature, Longlegs, Forrest Gump, Deadpool vs. Wolverine, or you think it's Dan, I think it was versus.
I don't know.
Twisters, Ghostbusters, Borderlands, Trapped, Coraline, Blink Twice, The Crow 2024, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, A New Hope, Speak No Evil, The Empire Strikes Back, Never Let Go, Shaun of the Dead, Furiosa, MaXXXine, Strangers Chapter 1. If you're wondering why Return of the Jedi isn't on this list, along with episodes 4 and 5 of Star Wars, it's because it's being released next weekend. We're going to watch it then. Mm-hmm. That's the list. Should we start with 48?
Yes.
What did you put?
I put Deadpool at 48.
So did I. For Deadpool versus Wolverine at 48. Okay, that's going to annoy a lot of people because it seems when I look online, everybody loves that film, except us.
I think we should say we're not big superhero kind of fans in general anyway.
No.
I mean, there's certain superhero movies that I love. I love Spider-Man.
You love Guardians of the Galaxy.
I love Guardians of the Galaxy, but that's predominantly because I think the music is amazing in Guardians of the Galaxy.
I really like some of the Captain America films. Mm-hmm. Other things I've seen, obviously I love the Dark Knight trilogy, but that's not Marvel.
That's DC, isn't it?
Yeah, we're not Marvel super fans, but I also think, I don't like the argument when people talk about why this film was good. They say, oh, it's one for the fans. Because I think when other franchises like Star Wars do anything that's considered fan service, people are really angry about it. Like you can't just make films a fan service.
Like the Obi-Wan show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because it's Deadpool, and that's kind of his shtick, and a kind of look at me providing for the fans, it's kind of forgiven, and I don't think that's fair. I don't think that makes it a good movie. I think you can enjoy it, but I fundamentally don't think that makes it a good film.
No, I think a film should be a good standalone film no matter who is watching.
Yeah. And I've liked Deadpool before. I've never been massively into it, but I've got it. But I found this film just too empty in comparison and too repetitive, a lot of the jokes. Some of them did make me laugh, but then it was the same over and over again.
That's the thing. Like, I think the amount of, like, Fox jokes got very tiring after a while.
And it's not even that funny, to be honest, is it? It's like, that's more of a, I understood the reference, therefore I find it funny, rather than a creative joke there.
What else did I... Like, I know this... Like, this all comes down to, like, humour taste and, like, comedy preferences and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I don't find, like, constant sexual humour funny.
No, I mean, I think some of the jokes were good ones.
Yes, they were, but I think, like, when the same joke is getting repeated over and over again, it gets a bit tiring.
I felt annoyed also because I absolutely loved Logan. And, and I mean, the joke is that they're ruining it and they're leaning into it, and so what? But it's still kind of sad to see the legacy of that film.
That's the thing. I think, like, that, in my opinion, should have been the last, at least, Hugh Jackman Wolverine, because it was a very good sending out for his character. And
I know they're having a bit of fun, but it's still a shame. It does damage the art of that film. And I think I felt the same about Daphne Keane in that film as well. I think it's fair enough people enjoying it, but I don't think that makes it a good movie. I think it's a terrible movie that has zero story. And I found really dull a lot of the film. That surprised me the most. Really, really dull and repetitive.
Mm-hmm. I remember, like, turning to you halfway through and being like, I'm very bored. I think what may have also contributed to the general rating I've given it is the audience when we went to
I mean, that's true. That does make us more bitter in a way that's slightly unfair and grumpy. But
like, I think there is a thing. I'm not saying this about all Marvel fans. I'm saying it about, like, a specific group of Marvel fans who think, like, the louder you are at understanding every single Easter egg or every single reference, the more that you're a fan of the specific thing.
Yeah.
So there was people in our screening who were like, I don't know, like, it was
hooting and hollering as your phrase.
I was about to say that, and then I was like, no one's gonna know what I'm talking about.
In America, that's probably acceptable. In the UK, you don't do that in the cinema, I don't think, about it annoying. I don't know, there was a difference. You could hear when people were genuinely laughing, and you could hear when they were, like, showingly laughing kind of thing, and that does become a bit annoying.
And there was one specific girl who, anytime something happened, would be like, oh yeah, and, like, start clapping and stuff, and I was like, this is a bit much.
Yeah. So we've started this list off by being grumpy snobs, which probably isn't the best best beginning, but
it's our opinions.
Yeah. I think that was the worst movie
I should add, like, I have ADHD.
Yeah.
And so, like, loudness and stuff, and, like, in cinemas, I can't do because it completely, like, distracts me from the focus of what I'm focusing on. So there's that as well. It wasn't me just being like, I don't want people having fun. It was more so...
Whereas me, it is just being grumpy. Yeah.
It was more so, it just distracts me too much.
Okay, so that's the other thing that actually really annoyed me about it was how much they just took all of the aesthetic of Furiosa or Mad Max's films.
Yeah.
And that annoyed me because Furiosa, that so much work and heart went into that film this year, and it did terribly at the box office. A really big flop, and I think it was deserved a lot better than that. And it's kind of annoying to then see a film just lazily steal all of that, and then make millions of dollars based off that other thing. That is like that does. It's not plagiarism.
Don't they even say Furiosa in it at one point?
Yep.
So it's like
they know they're doing it, and if it was an homage, it'd feel fair. But it just feels like, I don't know, stealing their idea to make money that film didn't make.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, 47.
Argylle.
Yes, same as well. Yeah. Argylle was a weird one, because that was one you fell asleep in, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, I fell asleep for probably 10 minutes and I woke up and nothing had happened.
Well, a lot had happened. I mean, that film was constantly lots of things happening, like twist upon twist.
Nothing of importance to the story.
None of it meant anything. It was lots of plot with zero story. Just loads of twists that you never cared about, and a lot of cat-related abuse was happening.
Yeah.
A lot of chucking cats out of windows and odd things. I think what annoyed me about that film so much was I saw the trailer and I thought this is an interesting idea. They've got a spy thriller written by some author, and then they meet the real life version of that spy, because it turns out that spy is a real person and everything they've written is actually true. I was like, okay, that sounds a bit cheesy and ridiculous, but that could be a fun film. It's made by the person who made Kingsman. I remember enjoying that film. I thought this was going to be a stupid blast, and it was stupid, but so boring. So boring.
I was incredibly bored.
Yeah.
Like, it was... I just think, like, as well, like, I know it's meant to be funny, but some of it was just so ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, some of it was kind of incomprehensible, I think, as a story.
And I cringed a lot in that film. Like, there were certain scenes I genuinely couldn't look at the screen because I found it that cringy.
Okay. I mean, there are moments I appreciated about this film where I thought I could see how that could almost work. Like, there's the stupid bit where they're ice skating around, which didn't work. They're, like, ice skating on knives they've taped to their shoes, and it's like some weird romantic killing everybody dance routine ice skating thing. I was like, I get the joke there, that's kind of cool. And I really enjoyed, I don't know if you meant to, the bit with Samuel L. Jackson. I wish that if this was a better film, that would have absolutely been a big meme. Where he's the guy at headquarters or whatever, and you get shots while they're doing all the action. They've got to send this file to him, Samuel L. Jackson. So they're doing all sorts of fights trying to get this file, and you keep cutting away to shots of him just at home waiting,
clapping,
and he's just watching the basketball, clapping in the most bored, passive, quiet clap way possible, like this tiny little weak thing, and then he gets sent the file. And it comes up big on his screen, downloading 1%, 2%. And he is absolutely losing his mind. Like, how you'd expect someone to be watching the basketball. I really enjoyed that. I don't know if it was deliberate or not, but that was fun.
It was fun, that bit, yeah.
That's all I could say, I think.
I think the ending just got very confusing.
No, the ending was incomprehensible. It made no sense whatsoever.
But also, like, so on all the film posters, the person in the front is Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
But, like, I'd say Henry Cavill is in the movie for all of 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And his character doesn't make any sense to me.
No, well, it didn't, did it? Because he's originally... When you see him originally, it's supposed to be, like, the imagined writing of her book. This is what her imagined characterization of her made-up Agent Argylle is.
Yeah.
And then you get the twist. I'm spoiling the film here. And then you get the twist that Agent Argylle is a real person, and actually it's her... And everything she's written was true. She'd just forgotten it because of brain damage-ish. Also, there's a place, if you shoot someone in the heart, they don't die. That was a thing in the film, wasn't it?
It happens twice in the film.
So that's a twist. She's the real Argylle. And then you get to the end of the film, and she's doing book signings, and Henry Cavill walks in, and he's like, "Hi, I expect you've got questions for me." Because he's Argylle, and now he's real, but I thought she was, and... How does he know that she'd have questions for him? Because the version we've seen of her fictionalized Argylle is just words on a page, so we don't actually know he looks like Henry Cavill. So Henry Cavill wouldn't know she'd be so shocked to see him. It doesn't make any sense. It's ridiculous. I don't think there's going to be a sequel to explain it. I don't know how you explain it.
I kind of hope there is, just because
I don't think
I'd be intrigued to see it.
Would you?
Yeah. I want to see if they could save the train wreck, but I don't know if they can.
I don't know. I think they were going to
If
release...
Henry Cavill can't save it, then I don't know what will.
I think
also,
it
there
harmed
was
his
some
career.
really bad acting in it as well, especially Dua Lipa.
Oh, yeah, I forgot
That
about her.
was quite bad. And John Cena.
Oh, yeah, John Cena was in it, yeah. I don't think it helped anyone's career, this film.
No.
It had Sam Rockwell, who I like, but I don't think it was good for him either.
The thing is, it's got Samuel L. Jackson in, but I kind of feel like... I love Samuel L. Jackson as an actor. I think he's amazing.
Yeah.
But it feels like these days he's in anything. Like, he was in like, the Spiral, the, side movie to Saw.
Yeah.
That was tragic.
He's old enough that he can do that now.
Yeah,
just get paychecks, I suppose.
I'm not. I probably would, so I'm not judging.
What did you put? I bet yours is the same again as me here. What did you put number 46?
I put Madame Web.
Oh, it isn't. See, I put Madame Web unfairly high because it was just so hilarious to watch.
It was funny.
It was an enjoyable film. I mean, if we're ranking based on the quality, that probably would be last on this list. I put The Strangers Chapter 1 next.
Oh.
Yeah. Do you want to go first on why you put Madame Web there? Well, you probably don't need to explain it, really. It was just terrible.
Right, I think I can't even say it's because I'm not a big fan of superheroes on this one, because it was just objectively a bad movie.
It was, yeah.
I think the dialogue was awful.
Yeah.
I also think one of the reasons I've rated it so low is I don't like the sexualization of schoolgirls.
Yeah, that whole scene was weird when they start dancing on the table.
Yeah, where they're dancing
and you feel
to
like
Britney Spears.
You feel like the writers just wanted them to do that
Yeah.
and then wanted other characters to complain about them doing that.
And I think that scene goes on for way too long for my liking because it started to make me feel really uncomfortable.
That was uncomfortable, that
And I
bit.
don't think I could place it any higher because
Yeah.
that film just... I think the villain in it, I didn't really understand what his character was about or anything,
It was just
really.
monologue about how these
Yeah.
people are going to kill him if he doesn't kill them. That was it.
But, like, his dialogue is hilarious. It's
Yeah.
really funny. There was one that you kept repeating afterwards, and I can't remember what it was
It
now.
was something about the day of your death or something. He's just sitting there saying it to himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got that assistant who seems to just go along with everything he says
Yeah.
for some reason. It was awful. It just was. It taught me what ADR is. That's a thing I've learnt. When it records the audio in post to sort of dub over sections.
Because all of his lines were...
Yeah, everything sounded off in that film.
I did particularly enjoy all the Pepsi
There was a lot of that.
advertisement, especially at the, like, another
Get killed with
spoiler,
a
at
sign.
the end he gets, like, crushed by, like, the S from the Pepsi sign or something.
I mean, that's the thing I loved most about this film was how, like, unintimidating his villain was, because they just kept...
I don't even think he hurts them, like, once.
No, he gets hit with a car twice, which is hilarious.
The
And,
ambulance through the billboard.
Yeah, he gets hit with a firework while he's in midair and it sends him flying off the screen. There's like so many things that just make him the least intimidating villain possible, and that's just fun. I honestly can't think a good thing about that film. Can you? Is there anything to save it?
No.
No, I don't think there
It
is.
was truly awful.
Yeah, I don't think she was good in a part either. I've forgotten her name now.
I think she's quite bland as an actress.
What is her name?
Dakota Johnson.
That's the one.
I think she is quite a bland person. And
Yeah.
I think if you're having an action kind of film, she is not necessarily the person I would.
No, I mean, if you're going to do a film like that, I think she should be hamming it up a bit more. I think you need that to try and lean into it a bit. And her performance, I think, is supposed to be very serious, and it's just dull.
Well, I think her character is meant to be someone who feels a bit lost in who they are and what they're doing. But it's like, she has this esque of like, I don't like people, this and that, and you're an EMT. Like, there's, at the start, a little boy, like, gives her a picture he's drawn because she saved his mum, and she's just kind of looking at him like, oh, what?
Yeah, I don't think their character progression made much sense either. It did have a nice little montage of how to do CPR for some reason. That was a bit...
Yeah. I think my favourite scene was when she tries to save the guy she works with from the ambulance crash.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was in hysterics.
He just gets hit by the car.
They said, well, if you wouldn't have held him up for so long, love, he probably would have made it.
I just love in all of those bits how incredibly confused she constantly looks. It's like, yes, as an audience, we get what's happening. Can you just get on with it?
Yeah.
Also, I think structurally as well, the film had zero tension because, like, you get the bits where you see what's going to happen if she doesn't intervene. Oh no, the evil man's going to kill these girls. I've got to do something. You see it happening, not actually happening. And therefore, as an audience, you go, oh, okay, this is what's not going to happen. Therefore, I don't need to worry because now we're going to watch what really happens and it's going to go a lot better.
Yeah, so it's kind of like Final Destination in that sense. Like, oh, someone's having a vision and then...
Except everything's avoided.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a bad film, but I put The Strangers Chapter 1.
Okay.
And I think I put that there because I don't remember having fun in that film.
I will say I have put that at my number 45, so just one above this.
Okay. Yes,
Spoiler for my next...
We can talk about it now then. Yeah, I mean, I just think it was... I think what annoyed me about that film so much is because we'd watched the original film, The Strangers, a couple of years ago. Yeah. You wanted to show it to me. And I quite liked that film. It
is one of my favourite horror movies ever made, I think.
Because I'm not a horror person at all. And the only horror movies I've seen really are ones you've shown me. So that was one of my first.
Like when we watched Jeepers Creepers and you got so scared you shook your drink out of your hand.
I got jump scared. I didn't get so scared. It's not like I was sitting there. I just got jump scared. That was all. But yeah, so it's one of my first experiences and I thought it was a good film. I mean, there's a lot. It's very solid for what it wants to do. It does it fine. Then this film, and I mean, because I haven't seen Strangers 2 or Strangers 3, I don't know what they're like. But this film, and they build it as discover how...
So there's the original Strangers, then there's one called The Strangers Pray at Night,
right,
which I've heard is very good. I've never watched it. And then I think this is the third kind of... But then I think this one is going to be a 3-parter from what I've heard.
Yeah. Which also annoys me. But they build it as, discover how the strangers became the strangers. You think, okay, you're going to learn something about their past and all of that. And then you don't. The story is exactly the same as the first film.
It is literally... Like, I would say this feels like more of a remake than a reboot.
Yeah, I don't... Honestly, apart from the two main characters who the strangers are terrorising, being slightly different, but barely different. Apart from that, it's almost exactly the same film. And so you don't learn anything new about them at all.
No.
Also, the trailer spoiled what would happen at the end because you saw the ending.
Yeah.
Go, okay,
also, like, I think it was after the credits. There's a really weird scene where she's like in a hospital bed and the stranger's like next to her or something.
Yeah, and there's supposed to be some big twist that she hasn't gotten away, but
and it's like, well, we knew that because I think there's going to be another 2 films.
Yeah. So that was just... But yeah, it was honestly exactly the same as the first film, but everything just done slightly worse. And I've never seen a film that much the same. It's baffling. I can't give any reboots or remakes that were so similar like that.
Like, the thing is, on this list, we have an original and a remake, and I'd say they are even more different than this, which is meant to be a reboot.
Yeah. So I don't know what the premise is for another 2 films to follow this one.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
because are they just going to be the same thing as well?
The thing is, I love this kind of horror, like, not this specific, but like this style of horror movie, which is very much like a real case scenario could happen.
Yeah.
Because, like, personally, I don't really believe in like ghosts and like supernatural. So them kind of movies I feel are fun, but I necessarily don't get scared by them because I don't think that this could actually happen. But like films like The Strangers, and there's a film called Hush as well, which is really good. They actually do scare me because it's like someone could break in. Because I remember you saying after we'd watched the first, like the original, you walked into your hallway at night where you've got like a glass window, like a big glass door, and you kept thinking that you saw someone. Or
no, I just sort of had the back of my head of this is it does leave that thought in your mind of what if someone came. And, should I be turning off the lights now or to make it look like no one's home?
And I just kind of didn't believe, like, any of the acting in, like, The Strangers Chapter 1. Like, I didn't think any of the acting was anything
I can't even remember
special.
it. I've got no memory of what the 2 main characters were, really. Apart from they sat in a diner at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just so uncreative. It's just copying homework, really. If it wasn't the same IP, it would be plagiarism. Okay, so that was your 45
my 45
then.
45 was The Strangers Chapter 1, yeah.
My 45 was In a Violent Nature, which in a way is unfair because I thought the idea of that film was really, really good. I really liked it. It's such a cool... And it's obviously made on a small budget, and I think I should give it credit for that as well.
I think it does show, though.
I mean, there's a lot about this film that I do think kind of works. It's a movie... How would you explain it? I suppose you'd say... Because, I mean, a lot of people probably haven't seen this one.
I'd say it's a horror movie that is completely seen from the killer's perspective.
Yeah.
So you have, like, I guess the main character is the killer, but then you have your, like, typical, like, slasher horror movie. This is your group of, like, kids. These are the people that you know are going to die.
The teens in the woods. Yeah.
So you have them, and they're also main characters because you get little glimpses into their kind of lives as well. But you only see them from the killer's perspective.
Yeah.
Everything you know about them is from the killer's perspective. So I think
it feels like you're sort of eavesdropping on their conversations.
Yeah, and I think that is a really cool way to go about it.
I do. When the film started and I realised that was what's happening, I was so excited about it. Because I think it's a great start as well. It's like there's that pole in the ground, and it's just a shot on this pole, and you hear these characters in the background having a conversation. Then they come up to the pole, and they take this necklace off of it and walk on, and that causes this slightly supernatural figure to then climb out of the ground where that pole is, and then you just follow him, and it's a really cool idea.
And there's a big sequence where he walks through this house, and like,
yeah,
it looks like it was shot in like one take.
A lot of it is
really
like that.
cool.
Yeah, I also really like, to be fair, the one killing I did like was the one with the wood. Is it a wood chipper? No, it's not wood chipper. It's a
like
lumber
a
cutter,
lumber
saw thing,
yeah.
whatever they're called. And as that kind of one sort of shocked me a bit, because so often those kind of killings are really dramatic and over the top, and it's just kind of nice how like unbothered and inhuman the whole killing is this guy who's been paralyzed and he's just lying there, and it's just this slow mechanical turning on a machine, slowly cutting through him, moving him a bit, cutting him again. Like, there's zero care or even really interest about who this person is.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool. I think it's a great idea for a movie.
It is, like, and at the start I was genuinely very intrigued, but the amount of bloody walking in this film.
Yeah.
Like, because I turned to you and went, this feels like you're playing, like, a horror video game and you have no clue where to walk.
Yeah. Like when you play a game and
like,
you're just getting lost
in the woods and you don't know where to go.
Wandering about waiting for the story to happen. Yeah.
And that's kind of how it felt.
I mean, it is. That was what the problems came in, because I suppose when you're following the perspective of the killer, you are only going to get glimpses of the actual characters and their conversations. Mm-hmm. And it's a giant woods, and it is just so many shots of this behind this man, watching him walk through the woods, nothing happening. And for a bit, I mean, you need some of that, obviously, but there's so much of it. It's probably got to be about 40% of the film is just a man walking with no dialogue or anything. And there's not attention to it. It's just walking, and it just becomes very dull.
Oh, there was a death in it that I loved, though.
Oh, some of them were ridiculous.
When he pulled the woman's head through her stomach.
Yeah, that... Yeah. I think I put it so low partly because I'm so frustrated that it could have been great, and because it just was quite dull, and it's a real shame with that one. I would have loved to put it higher, but I think it is quite low on this. I imagine it's quite low on your list. Or have you bumped it up because of the idea?
Well, mine's not the next one up, if that's what you're asking, so we'll get to it when we get to it.
We're on a list of bored. How where does that rank? I mean, because were you more bored by that than Deadpool and Wolverine?
I'd say...
Or Argylle? No.
See, I found it more entertaining than Deadpool, Argylle and Madam Web.
I wouldn't say Madam Web, but I'd say the other two I did, yeah. Okay, alright. Well, that was 45. Mm-hmm. What's your 44?
My 44 is Imaginary.
Is it?
Yeah.
Mine was The Crow 2024. Oh, you don't like that one?
Well, I haven't rated it too high either, but...
Okay. Well, do you want to go first with Imaginary, the film about the evil teddy that the girl... No, it's not even a teddy, because only she... Is it a teddy? Or is it invisible? I don't know.
The premise.
Supernatural, something to do with a teddy.
There's a teddy bear that you think is possessed, or something along them lines. I can't really explain this movie, because it was just very odd.
Yeah.
And as horror movies go, this is kind of one of my least favourite types of horror movie.
This feels like the run-of-the-mill slop type, I think.
They've been done so many times. Like, Annabelle is kind of similar. And I think that, like, film franchise is done a lot better. So it was fun, but I don't think it was good at all.
It was very run-of-the-mill. Mm-hmm. I think the reason I've not put it this low is because, one, I think the story did work. Like, structurally it made sense. There was a progression, there was some sense of character development, there were things there, and also there was a twist in it that I quite good, and I'm glad they did it that way. I also
liked there was an old lady in it, wasn't there?
Oh, that was fun.
I liked the old lady.
Watching her be stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, should I spoil the twist of this film? Do you think anybody cares for imaginary?
I mean, I don't think anyone's like on the edge of their seat, desperate to see the film.
Well, the twist is that I can't remember. There was a good twist that I've forgotten, and it's hard to explain anyway. That kind of works.
Her dad can't talk or something, right?
No, not that. I mean to do with the teddy, because it's not clear whether it's an imaginary soft toy or it's a real soft toy she's got. And you kind of think it's imaginary, but the mum can also see it, and there's reasons for that. And that was quite nice. That it is imaginary, but there's a reason only certain people can see it. And I thought, okay, that's slightly different, and that works. It works.
Oh, you talk about that scene where this leads to 2 points. So you've got the scene where the little girl is having counselling therapy.
Oh yeah.
And it they're recording it, which in itself you were like, what the hell is going on?
Why are you recording a counselling session? That's confidentiality issues right there.
In the recording, you don't see the teddy bear, but in through the girl's kind of eyes, you do.
Yeah, and then that was a twist because you realise the mum also sees the teddy, even though it's not real. But that was another point. It's not just recording the counselling sessions, but she's then like to the mum of this person who's having counselling. She's like, "Oh, this is similar to someone else I counselled," and she pulls out a laptop and shows her
went missing.
Shows her recorded footage of counselling sessions from someone else. That's confidentiality nightmare, right? Okay, well, I think it's fair putting it there. Mm-hmm. I put The Crow 2024, and you could put it higher, I think, on the basis that Bill Skarsgård gives a very, very good performance, and he's the one thing elevating it. There's something interesting about his character. Otherwise, I don't know. I mean, some of the action is well shot. I like some of the scenery. I think it's just... It doesn't capture what the original had.
No.
I appreciate that it tried to do something different, to be fair. Because it is very different.
It is.
But I think all of the differences are worse.
Yes. I didn't like the whole...
The villain.
Supernatural kind of subplot of, this guy is wanting to...
Yeah.
Send people to hell or whatever.
Some villain who's made a deal with the devil to be immortal as long as he can send people's souls to hell.
Yeah.
And it required quite a lot of exposition. Mm-hmm. And also didn't really mean that much anyway.
Yeah.
And he just wasn't a very interesting villain. I thought it took ages for the film to get going. And also, the whole thing this film depends on is that you really buy their relationship. And it's weird because in the original film, you don't really see their relationship. You start and they're dead and they're just in their room where they just got married. Mm-hmm. But you really buy into the fact that these two people loved each other. And
I think through Brendan Lee's portrayal and everything and the dialogue, you can kind of get a feel for how much he did care about her.
Yeah.
And more of their relationship through little snippets, even the little girl who's in it.
Yeah, he gets to talk to her about how he feels and things, and that elevates it. Whereas this film, you do see the beginning of their relationship, the two of them, and that's kind of the problem because then it feels so rushed, seeing them meet and seeing them fall in love happen so quickly that you don't really buy there's any depth to it because you're kind of seeing... If you're hinting at them having a long time in the past, it feels more deep than just what we get.
And I also think that their relationship feels like a relationship of convenience more than...
Well, I feel like he's getting taken advantage of the whole time.
Yeah.
She just wants a sort of an escape, and he doesn't really understand. And I didn't really buy that she does love him. It feels more like he's being used for that. Mm-hmm. And then his whole life ends up being committed to avenging her, and I feel like he deserved more than that.
And in this one, he even sends himself to hell, I guess.
Yeah.
So she can live again, which I'm that shouldn't I like the ending of the original where they're both still dead, but they're at peace.
I feel sorry for him that he goes all of that, and it's not really, and because of how it's filmed, really, you don't buy their relationship, and it does just make it feel like he's been used. He's given his soul for someone who wasn't that fussed for him in return.
Yeah. So the thing is, with the original, it's we can finally be together again thing.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, it's she can live instead of me. Cool. You know what I mean? It's I think it takes away some of that deepness of it because the original does make me cry at the end. Yeah. And I think it is very touching, whereas this was just
Also, the original was a lot more fun and has a greater atmosphere to it.
I guess we'll talk more about the original.
I think apart from the cool sort of body art design of Bill Skarsgård in this film. Apart from that, there isn't really any great aesthetic look to this film.
I think he was the only real standout in this.
Yeah. So I put it, what was that, 44?
43, was it?
No, that's 44.
Okay.
What's your 43?
My 43 is Horizon American Saga.
So is mine. I'm kind of surprised it got this high.
Thing is, it is not a bad movie. It's not. Like, but the negatives are, it's very boring. Like, I was intrigued, but I was also a little bit bored. It's 3 hours long, plus I had no clue what was going on for half of it.
And it doesn't end.
Because they keep flashing between so many different things that it's like, I have no clue what is going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's completely incoherent in a lot of ways. And I know what you mean, and it's not a bad movie, because I think if you look at the individual scenes, they're well filmed, the dialogue is quite strong, the characterization makes sense.
The cast is very good.
Yeah, like, individually, the scenes work, but how they're all put together to try and tell an overall story, there isn't really an overall story. It's just kind of things happening in the Wild West. There's a whole plot line with the British couple that just goes literally nowhere. Nothing happens in the end. I don't know why we're following them. They get all of these scenes and there isn't a conclusion to it or anything or a climax. And there's lots of disparate, different scenes of things and nothing pulls them together and there's no ending. The film gets towards what? It gets to about 2 hours 55, realises there's no ending, and then just gives you a montage of what's going to happen in the next film. And it's like, okay, we got a montage to wrap this up, and a montage that doesn't really make sense either.
And it wasn't a well put together montage either. It was just very weird.
No, so like, the scenes on their own are fine, but there's no overall film here, and it's really odd in that way.
I was very confused for all of it.
I mean, I was intrigued the whole film because I assumed it was going to go somewhere.
That's the thing. I was intrigued to a point, but then I was like, because I was just, it's just a slow starter. We'll get.
Yeah, it felt like okay. There's things happening.
But the good just never came. Like it was just one dull note the entire film until the end when you get a very quick montage. And I was like, that's the most excited I've been for the last 3 hours.
I was intrigued until I realised it's like waiting on a magic trick that never happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a way I'm surprised it got that high. There was things to like about it, but it just didn't work as a film. It didn't. I don't know, they should have made a TV series or something. 3 hours to put something together, and then nothing goes together. And
this is probably only like this. It probably is going to be like a trilogy or something, right?
I don't know if they're going to get the finance for it now.
Well, I mean, it probably not. But I think the intent probably was to make more.
Yeah, all you got is a montage. Also, that was a screening where it was literally us and one other couple who were in their 60s or something, and they booked the seats right next to ours. Which I can't understand.
I don't get that.
And so then then we moved away because of it. And then they talked a lot.
They were talking like the entire film, and then I think we moved away because of that, and then that
didn't help it.
No.
A giant whole cinema. Why would you pick seats next to other people?
I can't be too mad about people talking during that because it was quite dull.
Yeah.
So yeah, not a lot really to say on that one.
42.
This is where I put In a Violent Nature.
Was it?
Yeah.
Which is that's probably fairer than mine in a way, because I do feel a bit bad criticising it so much because it was a small budget film and there is a really good idea behind it. It's just the execution that slightly lets it down. I
think the reason I've placed it where I have is because compared to like Horizon, which I've put lower, I think In a Violent Nature had me more gripped than, and I think the general premise of In a Violent Nature, though not executed the best, was a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, there is a creative vision behind that. And in a world where there's so many films that are just made for the sake of it, there's a real idea behind that film. Whereas a thing like, Deadpool vs. Wolverine, Argylle, The Strangers Chapter 1, The Crow 2024, Horizon, you don't feel like, well, maybe Horizon, but you don't feel like there's a real vision of someone trying something new here, being adventurous and inventive.
It kind of just feels like some of the others are just like, oh, here's a film I know is going to get the views, fling it out. In a Violent Nature
doesn't entirely work, but you got to give it credit for that. And also, I think a lot of people did quite like it, didn't they? I think it worked for some people.
I heard pretty good things about it.
Yeah, so that could just be us.
Yeah, it could be our taste in movies and...
I put Tarot there, which honestly could have been a lot lower as well, but it was just so fun, just ridiculous fun in the same way Madam Web was.
Well, it's a bit higher on mine.
Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, it was stupid, that film.
I think it is so stupid it works, though.
Yeah, I mean...
I think with horror movies, especially, you either have to go, this is scary, this is what we're going for, or, like, very psychological or anything, or you have to go the other end and be like, we know it's bad. Well, maybe they didn't, but, like, it's bad, which makes it funny, which makes it enjoyable.
The two bits that got me the most, I think they're worth explaining just to give a sense of what this film is. The first killing, it's her birthday, isn't it?
Yeah.
And she hears a noise in the attic. So she sets up the ladder to go look up, and there's some spooky candle arrangement and some witch thing pushes her off the ladder.
No, it was so the premise of tarot is they do a tarot reading at the start, and each person gets a different card.
Yeah.
Like, and then it's what is on the card that then comes after them.
I can't remember, was hers a tower or
Hers
something?
was High Priestess.
Okay, right. And she falls down this, and then the priest keeps lifting up the ladder and slamming it down on her head. But when she falls off this ladder, her phone comes away. Mm-hmm. And it starts ringing, and she's got to reach it to try and save herself. But the phone is playing Happy Birthday as a ringtone in, like, the old phone beep sounds. And I just find it so hilarious that it's her birthday, so she changes her ringtone to Happy Birthday in the hope someone rings her so she can hear Happy Birthday play. I find that so funny. And,
I think another...
And it's just so ridiculous. It takes away any of the tension or horror of that bit.
I found that hilarious.
And it's the phone ringing and then the blood splatters against the screen while it's going do 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 do.
I think I also enjoyed... there's one where a young guy runs into, like, a train station or, like, what do they call it, tube?
Yeah.
Kind of.
That was the other bit I was going to say, yeah.
Things. And he's, like, thinking something's chasing him, so he runs onto, like, the tracks. He looks down and sees a newspaper that says, like, you're going to die or something.
It says, today you're going to die, and it's got his face looking shocked.
And then he gets hit by a train, and, like, at the front of the train is the thing that's, like, chasing him. And it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I think that made me... when I was watching it, I was entertained the entire movie.
I was. It was
fun. And
that's
why I haven't put it, like, this low, because I genuinely did enjoy the film. Even if it is bad, I think the general idea behind the film is very good. And I think...
I don't know, I find the general idea a bit generic, though, tarot cards.
Yeah, but I don't think it's something that's been done before in horror movies, really.
Well, you know better than me with that.
So, I think... in that sense, I know, like, things chasing teenagers is quite a big trope, but I think if done well, this could have been, like, a really good, strong horror movie. And
there are moments where it almost worked, like there's that magician character.
I loved that bit. I thought that bit was very good.
I thought the Joker one in the elevator almost was quite good.
Because I genuinely found, like, is it the Fool?
That's it, the Fool, yeah.
I thought the Fool was actually quite scary looking.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, there's something quite terrifying about jesters. But how they did that scene was just ridiculous. Like, there's this guy, he could be dead in a lift.
Oh yeah, the twist is that he survives because his flatmate opened the door for some reason, and that didn't make sense.
Well, his thing was that he's always joking, he never takes things seriously, he can never do anything right, he can...
Yeah.
And it's like... So you're just going into that trope, and instead of, like...
Well, no, that was what annoyed me about it, actually, because there was a lot of talk about how he needs to confront things seriously.
Yes, yeah.
And there's, like, posters saying, you got to take the bull by the horns.
Yeah.
And you find out later that you don't see the ending with him in it, and then you see him later and he survived, and it's like, oh, okay, we're going to find out he finally confronted the danger and faced it head on, and that's how he survived. But then you see how he survived, and no, he was doing the opposite. He was just cowering away crying in the lift, and... his flatmate just happened to open the door, and for some reason that stopped the Joker, the Fool, from attacking him, and it never came back again, and I don't know. A lot of it didn't make sense. A lot of it almost worked, or some of it almost worked, but the whole thing was just fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, to be fair.
I wouldn't pay money to see it, I don't think, but we saw it, and we had a good time.
Yeah.
One of those kind of films. So what was yours? For 42?
42 was In a Violent Nature.
Oh, yes, okay. So discuss both of them. Right, so 41.
At 41, I put Quiet Place Chapter 1.
I could have put that there. Mine's not long after that. I put Madam Web now. just purely on the basis of how ridiculous fun it is. It felt like it should go next to Taro in my rankings because they're both similar in that way. We kind of already discussed it, that one, though. So A Quiet Place Day One.
We haven't seen the original kind of Quiet Place. I think there's only one film, but there could be more, I'm not sure. I haven't seen them, so we were like, oh, I don't know, like, will we kind of get it, will it? And then I was like, but we were going to go see, like, I think this was on a day when we went to see a bunch of horror films.
Yeah.
So we're like, we might as well have a horror day, so we just flung it in there as well.
Yeah.
And initially, I was very intrigued. I think there's a strong kind of start to the film.
I do as well, actually. Because she's a different sort of character. She's, dying of cancer.
Yes.
And she's very, like, misanthropic, doesn't really... quite cynical, doesn't really care about humanity and things. Mm-hmm. And that's quite an interesting start. And she's got a therapy cat. Yeah.
I will say, I think the cat is the best thing about this film.
Is that why you put it so high? Because it had a cat in it?
Probably, yeah.
That's probably the same with me, to be fair.
I don't know. I was kind of excited to see Joseph Quinn in something else that wasn't Stranger Things. Because I think in Stranger Things he is very good. I think his character in this might as well have not been there. Like, I don't know, like, I don't think they gave him enough character to care about him.
No, it didn't really. You thought that some relationship was going to develop and it was going to change things in some way. And they had moments. They had a nice moment in a pub where they're doing magic tricks.
I did really like that scene. And I think, like, I do like films where there doesn't have to be a romantic element for people to have a connection. Because I think sometimes that can cheapen movies.
Yeah.
So I do like the fact that this is just quite a good friendship they've got going. But I don't think they explore that enough, and I don't think they form enough of a connection on screen.
I don't think the action was quite creative enough for it to work, because I like the idea of it, and you got to be quiet, and I think that could give space for a lot of more creative sort of action moments, but I think a lot of them were quite repetitive.
Yeah.
And a sort of they creep about, one of them accidentally makes a noise, then they have to be really, really quiet, and then they get away, or have to run, and then they do it again, and... I don't know. And there were some nice moments in the film, but a lot of it was quite repetitive,
I think it was very predictable as well, because I think I turned to you halfway through and went, oh, she's going to sacrifice herself to save him, and he's going to take the cat.
Yeah. It was very run-of-the-mill.
Yeah.
That's kind of all you can say about it, I think.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot. I think it's okay for what it is.
What did you put at number 40, then?
I put Imaginary Friends or If.
So did I. Yeah. I mean, that's a weird one, because I think this one... I think it quite annoyed me in a way, actually. Not at the time, because I think this film did make both of us cry.
Yes, but I think it wasn't... In hindsight, I don't think the things that make you emotional feel natural. I think they're purely there to get the reaction.
Yeah, they've got the very over-the-top emotional music, and they're doing a thing that they know is going to make someone cry, which is seeing... like, the bit that got me was seeing an old lady, like...
It makes me cry thinking about it, but...
being young, dancing like she used to do when she was young. Because it just makes me think of my nan, and it does make you cry, that, but it's really manufactured in there. And there's so many moments in this film where it just feels not earned, just like, this is a bit we're going to try and make you cry now.
I will say as well, I've kind of realised I just don't like Ryan Reynolds as an actor.
Well, neither do I, to be honest. I find I get the snarkiness sort of shtick, but I think it's a bit the same, and I don't think he was the right person for this film.
The only thing I've ever enjoyed him in is Amityville Horror, and I don't know whether that's just because when I first saw it, I was a teenager and I liked that he didn't have a t-shirt on for half the movie.
I think my problem with Ryan Reynolds is I think he seems quite nice as a person, and I think quite actually shy and insecure in his own self.
Oh, yeah.
But I think his acting is just so much a brand. Rather than playing characters, it's the Ryan Reynolds brand doing the Ryan Reynolds thing.
Yeah.
But I always think he's wrongly cast, because this film, it's an odd thing of a child who doesn't feel like a child. Like, they've got to be grown up and things, because their dad's, I think...
Their mum has passed...
Was their dad suicidal? Was that why he was in hospital?
Their mum's passed away, and then their dad, as they describe it in the movie, is in for a broken heart. But I think it's meant to be that he was...
Okay. So you got this child then who has become very adult as a result of this family situation, and then there's these imaginary characters who've got to try and reconnect her to her childhood side, and it's like all of these childish characters. But the main character in all of that, Ryan Reynolds, isn't at all childish. He's very grown up and very serious. And there's like a weird bit of that kind of makes sense because is she this is spoiling the twist, I suppose, that Ryan Reynolds is an imaginary character as well. But is that
could be though, because like when you do go through losses and stuff, you do have to grow up.
Yeah, like is Ryan Reynolds this child's imaginary version of what being grown up and adult is? That kind of works, but they don't then explore that because at the same time it's supposed to be him getting her to become more childish, and the 2 points don't quite work together. There's sort of a clash.
It kind of turns out he used to be like a clown, or something when she used to imagine him, and
I just can't see him that character as a clown.
I kind of would have liked the idea that because she doesn't like. I think obviously she kind of has an imaginary friend that is like an older man of like dad age because her dad maybe necessarily isn't around as much anymore now that.
Yeah.
I kind of would have liked the idea if the imaginary friend looked like her dad. So if they just got John Krasinski.
Yeah, that would have been cool. That would have made much more sense. I think the other thing that annoys me about this film is this is a child who clearly needs some comfort and support. And the only character she's got is her nan. And her nan leaves her, this child, to just go wander New York as much as she likes with this imaginary character. Like, okay, you're going to disappear for the entire day and come back late at night. I'm not going to ask any questions.
Well, there was that scene as well where she goes to visit her dad in hospital and she's like, oh, I've got a job. And he's like, you probably don't want me to ask you about that, do you? And then that's it.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell was my 12-year-old child have a job? What's going on here? No question. She's not really parented in those ways. Yeah, the whole film just felt like it wanted to do something very moving, and it was different to Toy Story. It tried to do things in a different way, but I don't think it worked. It just felt like it trying to do what Toy Story did in terms of emotion, but it just being really forced.
Also, there was a child who was in hospital, and there were hints of child abuse in there.
Yeah, like he's saying, oh, I'm so clumsy, I keep hurting myself.
My mum's always mad at me.
Her mum turned off the TV because in the hospital room because he's not allowed to watch it.
Yeah, and how no one really visits him, and
then it's slightly uncomfortable, and his ending is he gets an imaginary friend, and I don't think that's the right resolution.
And then he's sat at the park alone with his imaginary friend.
Yeah.
Like, where the hell are these kids' parents?
I feel really sorry for that kid, and I don't know if it's accidentally made it look like he's being abused or if it's deliberate and he doesn't get any resolution to that. Either way, it's not great.
No.
So I'm surprised it got that high in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I suppose it's because the animation was quite well done and there's some interesting sort of imaginary looking characters.
I liked that there was a completely like invisible imaginary friend.
Oh, it didn't make any noise.
In the credits, it's listed as being played by Brad Pitt.
Yeah. It's just called Keith, and it's just every now and again someone falls over pretending they've bumped into someone.
I did kind of like that.
Yeah. So that's number 40. 39 is where I put A Quiet Place Day One.
39 is where I put The Crow 2024.
Yeah, which is a lot higher than because I put it, 44? Mm-hmm. Why so high? Because of Bill Skarsgård, or?
Quite possibly. Because I just personally think I enjoyed it more than I did the others. I think there were certain like sequences in that film which I thought was so good. Like when he arrives at the theatre.
I did like that.
And that
bit.
Entire bit I think is very
There's a bit at the start of A Horse as well, where he's trying to save his horse that's been caught in barbed wire. And I like that as a start. And I think as well with the trailer, you see like the brief pictures of shots in the trailer and it looks really interesting. It looks visually quite good. And I was really excited for this because of the trailer. It didn't deliver.
I think the horse scene, though, kind of makes you think, like, oh, he's used to trying to save things. Here he is trying to save a woman from her drug habits. Yeah. but there are things in there that clearly hooked me in some way. And I don't think it's as bad, because a lot of people saying it was as bad as Madam Web. It definitely wasn't. No. It's not. Some of the dialogue was quite... I mean, a lot of the dialogue was quite cheesy in it, to be fair. But there were things that weren't awful about this film. There are things I did quite like. Yeah. It's one of those films I wish I could just rewrite myself. Yeah. But we all discussed both of them. So I put at number 38, I put Borderlands, which I'm also surprised it got that high. Is yours a lot higher? Is it? Well, not a lot, but 38, I put Tarot.
Okay. I mean, I can see putting Tarot that high.
Because I found it a lot more fun than the previous movies that I've listed. Because in that screening, I was not bored once. We were laughing.
Yeah.
It was good. I enjoyed it.
Were you bored in Borderlands?
No, I wasn't. I don't understand the dislike of this movie at all.
I do understand it.
I don't understand it being listed as one of the worst movies of the year.
I think if I'd played the Borderlands games, I might feel that more. I think it's just a very bland run-of-the-mill film. Like there's not much I would say is horrendous about it. I think some of the dialogue's a bit cheesy. Some of the jokes don't entirely work, but also they just feel very generic. Mm-hmm.
Maybe I haven't put it so low because I think this is the first ever film that I've seen Kevin Hart in that hasn't annoyed me.
Yeah. I think a lot of people saying he was weird casting for how the character is in the game, but he's not annoying. I'll give him that.
Because like my issue with Kevin Hart is his comedy is very much I'm short.
Yeah.
So when one of his first lines in the film was like something about how short he was to be a like agent or whatever he is.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, here we go. But
he was okay. I think I absolutely hated this trailer. And I think a big reason I hated it is because it plays on the quirkiness, and it's saying, like they say in the trailer, we've got one thing which is going to make us succeed. What major issues? And there's like the tagline, you have to be a little off to succeed or something. And it's all of that, like a kind of romanticisation of mental illness in a way that I find really odd and off-putting. And I thought I was going to despise this film. And then you actually see the film and it's not as bad as that. That's not how it is. There's something quite genuine behind it all. But I don't know. It just wasn't. The ending was also really odd and disappointing. This whole turning into a firehawk thing, was it called? I don't know. And it kind of neatly wraps it up. I don't think that worked. I think it's just very bland, just very generic. It feels exactly like a kind of corporate made. Like they saw an IP that people liked, although it's quite out of date now.
Yeah.
And went, let's make this into a very generic film.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I
did not enjoy it, to be fair, no.
It's not the best film I've ever seen in my life, but like, I wasn't annoyed of having gone to watch it. I was annoyed that there was a woman who was sat behind us the entire film who had one of the most horrific laughs I've ever heard.
I mean, to her, it was an absolute blast of a film, wasn't it?
Reenact her laugh. But like she kept talking about everything to the person next to her, to the point where I think, was this the film I turned around and went like, please be quiet?
Yeah, I mean you put a bit stronger words than that, but yeah.
Yeah, and I went please be quiet and then turned around and went effing hell.
Yeah, I mean I wouldn't say there's things that were terrible about this film. There's just nothing special about it at all, I don't think, apart from the kind of generic atmosphere and look which is drawing on the games, although I don't know why they didn't kind of animate it, because the games has a real cool look to them. The style, I can't remember the word is.
I've briefly played the games, but I've not played them enough because I think like I got a bit bored of Borderlands.
I got bored of Borderlands. It's partly because I was playing it online with my friend and we couldn't be bothered to listen to any of the dialogue.
Yeah, I think this is...
So you just skip through it and then just shoot things. And as a result of not listening to the dialogue, it becomes repetitive. You end up going to the same places
like over and over again and it just gets a bit boring.
Yeah. But it clearly is an IP a lot of people love, and this film definitely hasn't done it justice.
I do think there is a big thing, though, these days of... making video games into films. Yeah. And I think a lot of them don't land as well.
I think they so rarely land well that people could just get really tired and cynical about it, especially, which I think is fair, you know. I mean, I said that once in my review of the recent Indiana Jones film. I said it makes sense people are just so tired and fed up of these kind of things, even though that film wasn't as awful as people said. It was kind of okay.
Did you prefer that one or Crystal Skull?
I think they're pretty even, to be honest. Yeah.
Because I haven't seen the new Indiana Jones, but I found Crystal Skull quite entertaining, I'm not gonna lie.
I can't remember it well enough. I think both of them had a lot of problems.
Anyways, this isn't about Indiana Jones.
Okay, alright, I won't get into that. Okay, 37. This is where I put Imaginary, which is quite high.
I think you're going to be mad at me.
It's not Fight Club, is it?
No.
Go on.
I put One Love, the Bob Marley
Did you?
movie.
Let me check where I put it. I'm not too mad, no. I mean, Imaginary we kind of talked about. The reason I put it that high is because I think it again, it's a quite run-of-the-mill slop film, and I think it makes sense next to Borderlands in a way for that. I think the story it worked. I don't think it was that interesting, but it worked.
Yeah.
And that's probably why it's there. And there were elements about it that I found quite... I think it was the idea of an imaginary friend and it being this mythical presence that can feed on your thoughts. It made me think about the ways, as a culture, we can tend to look at imaginary friends and how they're sometimes seen as something that children need to grow out of and it's horrible, or what they often are is something quite positive, I think, for expressing a lot of feelings.
I think it can also be like a level of comfort for people. Because I know it's not really the same thing, but when I was a kid and I was like angry or scared or upset or anything, I would go under my duvet cover, close my eyes, and then I had this whole kind of world in my own head.
Yeah.
Where I would imagine like where people in my actual life would work, give that each person like a job role, and in my head I'd kind of play out like stories of being in this world.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of my equivalent of imaginary friends, and I think that can help to process, like, especially like when you're giving people job roles in your head, I think you give them based on how you're feeling about that person that day. So like if your mum's annoyed you, you're like, oh, you're going to be like the toilet cleaner in my world kind of thing, you know what I mean? So then that can help process like different emotions and stuff like that.
I think it can be a coping mechanism, but more than that, it is a way to process things and express things. And I think culturally, we often look at imaginary friends like it's like people get disturbed by the idea of them, and there is that kind of horror in what if this imaginary being takes over you. And so I get the kind of idea behind the horror of this film. So there's that.
Cool.
So what did you say yours was?
One Love.
One Love, yeah.
I think...
It's the Bob Marley biopic.
Yes. I'm not necessarily very...
I'm a very big Bob Marley fan, aren't I?
Whereas I'm not as aware of Bob Marley's music. Like, I'd know, like, the basic kind of ones, but, like, apart from that, I wouldn't. I don't think it's necessarily my kind of music. But...
Not got a thing for Exodus.
I think my issue with this film was I found it quite boring. I was bored.
Were you?
Yeah. I liked the idea of the film. It feels like it's leading to something.
Well, I mean, the whole film is leading up to this concert where he brings the two sides of the Civil War together, which is a cool ending, I think.
Yeah. I don't know, though. I think things just felt very rushed in this film.
I don't think there was enough.
The pacing was very weird.
Yeah.
And I think there were little bits of the film that never got, like, not a conclusion, because I understand that it's a real life kind of biopic, but there's certain plot points that don't really go anywhere.
Well, I think if you're going to do a biopic about someone, I always have to wonder, what are you exploring about this person's life? What is it you're actually exploring? Or are you just literally telling the story of their life or a snippet of their life? And I don't think there was... They sort of nodded at things that could be worth exploring, but never really went deep into it. Like, they could have gone a lot further with the fact someone tried to assassinate him.
Yeah, that's...
The Civil War itself,
it was just
obviously.
kind of like someone's tried to assassinate me.
Yeah, that was kind of just a beat in the movie to get things going. Mm-hmm. There's obviously the Civil War itself. Could have been a lot more about his relationship with his children or his wife, which they kind of washed over. Mm-hmm. Was a bit of a shame. So it definitely could have done a lot more. I do think, what's his name, Kingsley Ben-Adir is very good in that part.
Yeah.
But yeah,
there's not a lot to say about it.
I think it's fair putting it there. Mm-hmm. I really like Bob Marley, but I don't think that film did as much as it should have done. Mm-hmm. It feels, I think, it does feel like the run-of-the-mill biopic. It hits the beats biopics hit. It plays the songs.
I am kind of bored of biopics.
What about the Lego Pharrell Williams one coming up?
Oh, can't wait. Already booked my tickets.
I mean, that one annoys me because you see the trailer for that and it's like there is nothing they're exploring in his life. But it's literally just, you do this in Lego to try and kind of paper over the cracks of there being no substance for a story here. But
the idea of a biopic Lego movie I find so fun.
Yeah.
And
they pick someone's life. I mean, there might be a lot in his life, but based on the trailer, it looks like there's nothing. It looks like it's just doing the biopic things.
Mm-hmm. I was kind of sad because I would have loved like a Beatles Lego biopic, because I think like the whole like yellow submarine kind of aesthetic would work in like Lego. Yeah. And I just think they all have hair that looks like it's a Lego clip-on anyway. So think it would kind of work. But yeah, One Love wasn't bothered.
Okay. I think it's fair putting it there. We're getting into the middle of these lists now where everything's not a bad film, but they're all quite... It's hard to place them as a result. Mm-hmm. So that was what? 37. Mm-hmm. 36.
Borderlands.
Okay. Not far off where I put it, to be fair. I put it 38. I put Back to Black next, which was the Amy Winehouse biopic, which a lot of people despised.
I will say I have put Back to Black just one up from this.
Okay. I mean, I think a lot of people misunderstood this film in that I think it was supposed to be from Amy Winehouse's perspective and how an abusive relationship feels for the person within it.
Mm-hmm. And how she felt about the people in her life as well.
And how you might not be seeing the reality in certain ways and the objectivity of it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I don't think this film did a good job to present that that's what it was trying to do. So I think it makes perfect sense. A lot of people misunderstood it and were very upset that it makes her dad and her boyfriend look like not bad people. I mean, they don't look good in the film.
I think
but...
if anything, it makes Amy Winehouse look like a bad person in some elements.
I know what you mean, and it feels unfair when she's a real person,
especially someone who isn't around anymore, who can't speak for herself on.
Because you would have to wonder, what would Amy Winehouse think about this movie, and it probably wouldn't be positive, would it?
Yeah, I don't think that I would want someone to make a film after I'm dead pointing out that I'm an abuser or I'm this, I'm that, when you're not around to defend yourself against that. Like, sure, that may have been an element of it, but like it wasn't one-sided from what I have heard.
Well, I mean, that said, I don't think it presented her as a bad person entirely. I think there were aspects.
No, but I think like.
But yeah, I don't think if it was going to do a middle ground of exploring the complications and complexity of a relationship, I don't think it did a good enough job with that.
No.
The reason I put it this high, I think, is because as a biopic, it did at least try and explore something. Mm-hmm. And it was again a very good performance, I think. A lot of people complained about her singing. I didn't feel that. I think she got all of the mannerisms and the dialogue right as well. I think it's very difficult as well doing a character who's that kind of sort of eccentric and different, and it not being a caricature, but also still being able to manage the emotional moments without it feeling like you're just doing the voice. And I thought she was very good at that.
Yeah.
I liked the bit as well where she's doing the concert and she's really out of it and you can't really hear anything she's saying. It's just this crowd that's kind of consuming her.
Well, I mean, like,
I think that's a really good moment.
I've seen like the live footage of like them performances, and that's just how it is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was like a very metaphoric decision.
There's one Glastonbury performance that is really sad when she's clearly not okay.
Yeah. The thing I found most sad about that film as well is because there's a lot of hints just subtly in the background about her wanting to be a mother and wishing she had a child, and that's very tragic. And there's like the bit where she sees a child in a shop or something and kind of wondering about what her life could have been. That is very sad.
And I don't know how true it is that one of the reasons for her starting drinking again was because she found out that her ex was having a child with someone.
Oh yeah,
I'm not speaking on it like I know it's a truth.
Yeah,
not,
I mean, I think it's fair enough. A lot of people despising this film, and ethically, neither of us know much about Amy Winehouse.
No,
so it's hard to say.
So I wouldn't feel comfortable like speculating about her life or anything because
talking about it objectively as a film on a kind of technical delivery of a story in filmmaking. I think it's okay.
As a biopic, I think it is better than Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes. I think it probably is as well. Yeah. So I put that 36. Mm-hmm. And yours was Borderlands.
Yeah.
So what's 35?
35. My 35 was
Back to Black.
Okay,
well my 35 was The Watch. Well, so that's your 34.
My 34 was The Watched.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those films I thought, you see the trailer for that and like, okay, this is a really cool premise. There's people in this glass box and there's monsters they can't see out there that come to watch them every night. And they have to entertain this, otherwise they're going to get killed. And they can go out and do whatever in the day, but they've got to make sure they're back here to be entertainment at night. Mm-hmm. And that was really cool. I really like that as an idea.
Yeah, I think it's really cool.
And I think some of the explanation behind it in the film also works. I don't know if this is one I would want to spoil, because people might enjoy this.
I mean, it is a good film.
Yeah, what I didn't like, I don't think, was the final section where after they leave this island and it goes a little bit wayward and becomes quite forced in what it's trying to say about this supernatural character, about where their place is and how they have to sort of forgive and accept. And I didn't quite buy that. It felt a bit like tacked on, that ending to the film. I don't necessarily think they needed that. I think they could have cut it all and ended it a lot sooner.
I love Dakota Fanning as an actress. I think especially in like horror, she does very well.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty solid film that has an interesting idea to do something different. I think it was a novel originally. I wonder if the novel, because I think the bits at the end with all of the theme and the meaning, where they try and deliver a meaning to the film, I don't think were well done. Maybe they're done better in the book.
Yeah, maybe you understand more what's occurring.
But it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I would recommend it to people. I think it is.
I think I'd watch it again.
Yeah.
It's a cool idea. It's worth, and it's something different, which is what I've been saying I'd like. That's what I criticised Violent Nature so harshly on. The execution was good enough here, I think, though. Okay, so your 34 was the watched. Mine was Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which is weird when I look at this list.
This list is getting weird now because my 33 is Ghostbusters.
It's odd when I look at them, though. I think it's something like that. Of all of the problems, is it fair that it's better than some of the ones I've already had before? I don't know. I've been very harsh on Inner Violent Nature, haven't I? I don't know if I would put that there again. Because Ghostbusters was another one that was very much made for the money.
Yeah.
And is quite run-of-the-mill in a lot of aspects. I've never been I mean, I like Ghostbusters, but I can't say I remember it that well. I must have watched it, twice as a little kid?
Yeah.
It's not like one I'm a super fan of. And I also didn't see Ghostbusters Afterlife. You didn't either, did you?
No.
So we just went into this one kind of blind, and I think that probably suited it better. And I think it did a good job quickly setting up the characters, but then there was more characters to set up, and then more characters, and suddenly it becomes a bit of a mess.
Yeah, I agree.
That's frustrating, kind of in a way of, we said about Horizon. I think there's individual bits of this film that work really well. There's some scenes I really liked. I liked the scenes with, I can't remember his name, I think it's Kamal someone.
The fire...
Yeah. I think he had some really fun bits where he's got these old antiques of his nan's that he's trying to sell, but pretending he's trying to honour her.
Yeah. I think he was my favourite character.
I think he was really good, and I wish they didn't have so many other characters getting in the way. I wish they'd just focused on a few like him and zeroed in. And I don't know why Bill Murray was there, as much as I love Bill Murray.
Also, why was James Acaster cast in that role?
Yeah, that was a really weird decision, because they got James Acaster, classically a very odd comedian, to play a very normal role, and he just does not feel comfortable doing it.
No,
he cannot do that.
His character, I didn't believe, like,
the delivery did not work in any of his lines. No, weird decision. It was a mess. It was a complete mess. But
I think for me, it relied on the nostalgia of seeing like Dan Aykroyd and like Bill Murray.
Well, those are the bits I didn't like, because I was like, they shouldn't be here. They're making it even more messy. I wish they'd have just...
I wish they would have calmed it down more on the new people and like...
Yeah, I mean, is it Finn Wolfhard?
Finn Wolfhard, yeah.
He didn't get enough time to do anything with his character.
No.
There's also the whole ghost girl bit going on with another character, and that didn't get enough time to really land. No. And there's so many bits that were almost set up to something, but then didn't get space to deliver properly because there's so many other characters going on. And I think... they should have... I think they structured it wrong. I made a video about this once that I think then went... where I was talking about they got the structure wrong. They should have set this up as a mystery. What is this box? Why is the city gone frozen?
But yeah, that's
slowly
what I think,
figuring it
because
out.
like the city only freezes like at the end, right?
Yeah, they should have done that.
It should have been like this is how we're starting the film. The city is freezing. Now we need to explore why this city is freezing.
Yeah, I suppose the whole film building up to making it freeze. And then very quickly
kind of
resolving
finding the fire guy and like knowing he has to kind of...
Yeah, I think they got the whole structure the wrong way around for this. But there were a lot of scenes that made me laugh. I think a lot of the dialogue was quite funny. I think the action was pretty good. There were things... I feel like there's a good film in here that if it had been edited a bit more, it would have been really enjoyable.
Because I think what led me to be a little bit disappointed about like the structure of the film was the trailer even shows it as freezing then.
Yeah,
kind of.
The trailer sets it up like New York is suddenly frozen.
Yeah.
What's going to happen? Who are we going to call?
So it kind of starts with the scene at the beach where everything's...
Yeah, I said who are we going to call though.
Yeah.
Who are we going to call? Who? Ghostbusters.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I wasn't going to entertain you on that one.
Right, I've completely thrown off what you were trying to say now, haven't I? You've forgotten what you were saying.
No, it's fine.
Okay. All right. I assume it wasn't. If I've ruined a really insightful point.
I don't know now, will we?
I think the trailer set it up like it did Freeze, and that makes it look really interesting. That makes it look there's going to be a lot of pace to this film. Quickly figure out before it all goes, everything's going wrong. It keeps freezing. No, it's just rushed at the end.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was my 33, so you'll have to show your 33 now.
My 33 was One Love, and I could rank it similarly to you. I think we've kind of said everything we would about it. I think the reason I put it above Back to Black is because I like Bob Marley. That's probably it.
Yeah.
So 32?
32, I put Seize Them.
I put Godzilla x Kong. Seize Them is one we'll have to explain, because I imagine no one but us saw this film. It wasn't advertised,
okay,
was it?
I'll try and explain the premise of Seize Them.
Okay.
It's pretty much about a queen whose kingdom is going to be overthrown.
Medieval times, yeah.
Yes, and I can't explain it, I don't think.
Okay, I'll try. If you've seen Horrible Histories,
yes,
you'll get a sense of what the tone of this film is. Mm-hmm. It looks like it was made on a budget of £5. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of comedy actors.
If it would have had Matt Bainton in, I probably would have rated it a lot higher.
It's a lot of comedy actors who are clearly friends and clearly had a vague idea for something they wanted to do and just had fun with a camera and some cheap costumes for a bit.
Yeah.
Of a medieval queen who's a terrible queen. Everybody hates her. As a result, there's a revolution. She's so stuck up and insists about it's wrong when she's forced to flee and then kind of traverse the land pretending to be a peasant, and it kind of changes her, sort of.
It's got like Nick Frost in. It's got
James Acaster, Jessica Hines, Lolly Adefope. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of good people who are just comedy actors having fun. There's barely any budget. They're just walking about English countrysides pretending to be over the top medieval people, and it's just fun.
There were some really funny scenes in it. Like,
there were. A lot of it doesn't quite land, but a lot of it does, because it's just
because it's not meant to be taken like as a serious film. It is just
it feels almost like a YouTube video in a way, someone, and that's what the charm is about it. Like it makes it very cozy,
a bigger budget school play.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's weird seeing that in the cinema because it feels like it belongs more on a TV screen at home in front of the fire.
Like straight to Netflix, kind of.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons I haven't marked it higher is because in the cinema, it didn't feel like a big release. But I loved it. It's very charming. A lot of it's very fun. And and you don't see films like that ever anymore. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever seen a film like that where it's just actors with no budget just mucking about for a bit. I don't even know if they had a script. It's hard to say.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
It feels like it could have been like, what should we do for the next scene? And then they quickly discuss it and then start filming. Yeah. So I loved that. But I don't know if anyone else saw it. That was what you scored, was it? What was it?
32.
And mine was...
Godzilla, was it?
Yes, mine was Godzilla x Kong, which you clearly put a lot higher.
I have Godzilla x Kong at 31.
Oh, almost every one of mine. Yours is one different. Okay, what do I say about this film? I think the effects on the animation are brilliantly done. Mm-hmm. And I think they put a lot of work into giving Kong a lot of emotion. There's bits with him having toothache and a bit where he sort of stumbles when he tries to sit down because he's in pain and things like that, where they've just clearly put a lot of work into this to do the extra touches. Yeah. And it really pays off. And the fight scenes were good. Mm-hmm.
You especially loved it when Kong was flinging a little monkey. Yeah,
he's using a child monkey as a baseball bat, which is just so odd, but it's fun. The whole film is ridiculous, really, isn't it?
I think this is one film that pleasantly surprised me, because I think when we originally saw the trailer, we were kind of like, laughing and joking about it because it seems ridiculous.
Yeah, Avengers Assemble with Kong and Godzilla.
Yeah.
And it is ridiculous. I thought I would hate it. I thought it was just going to be mindless action that would be boring sludge, and it was mindless action, but it was well done. I think if that's your kind of film, you would absolutely love this.
Yeah.
It's not my kind of film, but I still enjoyed it.
It's not mine either, but I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. I even cried for some reason during this.
Yeah, but you always cry, didn't you? What did you cry at? Was it the baby monkey or was it the...
Oh, it was I think it was at the end when
the Ice Godzilla.
they were petting the Ice Godzilla.
Yeah.
And I think it was the fact that Kong was no longer alone.
Yeah.
That made me sad. I think that just falls into the category that animals, real or not, it upsets me.
Yeah.
Now I'm almost crying now thinking about Kong being alone. But
It was a film of someone lets out a loud roar, then punches someone, then that person roars, or not person, but creature roars, and then they punch, and then another one roars, and then there's a giant moth that lets out moth noises, and then... Yep. And it's a film of that, and it's if that's what the film's going to be, it's as well done as it could be.
I thought it was good.
I won't criticise what it set out to do.
What have you got, a 31?
I'm surprised this one went here. It's Longlegs.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's yours?
Well, mine was Godzilla x Kong, wasn't it?
Oh, of course, yeah. Well, Longlegs I was funny about, because, I mean, that was massively marketed as the scariest thing ever. Yeah. And it's going to be... And it looked really good from the trailers. It looked very artistic. And I think it was quite artistic, a lot of it. Mm-hmm. Beautifully shot, very odd feel. I think, what's her name? Micah Monroe?
Yeah.
I think she was very good in the part. She's very numb for a lot of the film, and then you understand why that is later on.
And I do think this is the kind of role where Nicolas Cage is best.
Oh, he's perfectly
where
cast.
He can just... Because he is an odd man,
yeah.
I think. So I think where he can just completely go a bit mental,
yeah.
I think is the roles he is best at. 'Cause I used to hate Nicolas Cage as an actor.
Did you?
Yeah. Especially like...
But everybody used to, didn't they? The internet changed their mind on him at some point.
Like, I really didn't like Ghost... Is it Ghost Rider?
Yeah.
Ghost Rider?
Yeah, Ghost Rider.
And the knowing, things like that, I thought... And Wicker Man.
The Bees.
Oh. But I think that, this kind of role works perfectly for him, and I think that is one of the... If it wasn't for him as that character, I think this film could have...
I think he's a big part of why so many people saw it as well.
Yeah.
Because they imagine Nicolas Cage working with... It's funny how the internet changed him. I admire how well he rode that out, because there was a long period where people were saying he's the worst actor ever, and he kind of just lent into that and had fun with it, and then people realised it was fun.
While we're on that tangent, who would you say is the worst actor ever?
Worst actor ever? Or do you have an answer, do you?
Yes. I wouldn't say they're the worst actor ever, but when I see them in a film, I'm automatically
is it Orlando Bloom?
No, because he's actually in some films that I really enjoy.
Yeah, but he's so bland and everything.
He is, yeah. But I'd say the one person I see there in a film, my eyes immediately just roll, is Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, I think he's overrated, yeah. I don't like him as a person either. That might be part of it. He doesn't seem a nice person. I don't know why.
No.
Was he in a controversy ever or something? Or...
Well, I mean, there's the current P. Diddy thing I think he's on some list about, but like...
Oh, okay, that's very bad.
And
then.
wasn't he in prison or something for a while?
Was he?
Yeah, Mark Wahlberg was in prison for like trying to kill someone or something. I don't know. I'm not good. This might not be true.
We'll add allegedly to that.
Yeah.
Or maybe not allegedly. Maybe we made that up. Okay, apart from criticising Mark Wahlberg out of nowhere, what were we saying? Longlegs, yeah.
Longlegs.
Very artistic, beautifully shot, but then I don't think there was much substance at the end of it. It was tense, a lot of it, figuring out what's going on, what's all of this mean, and then when you find out, it's a bit disappointing, and it ends very rushed. I feel like there could have been an extra beat before this film finished. They could have gone a lot more chaotic, ramped it up right more before the end.
I agree.
And they didn't. It's a very underwhelming finish. And that made all of the very artsy, mysterious, ominous feel at the start of the film. It made it just feel a bit like a cheap trick. Beautifully shot, but I just don't think the script was anything special. It felt like any ordinary, slightly supernatural mystery you might see on TV. So, in terms of how it was marketed, it did not deliver. And that's why I put it there, I think. But yeah, Nicolas Cage was great in it.
Yeah, he was perfect.
Yours was Godzilla x Kong. So what's number 30?
My number 30 is Bikeriders.
Is it? I put that a bit higher. Bikeriders, I wonder if anyone saw this film as well.
I mean, it was a very good cast.
Yeah, well, there's Jodie Comer, Austin Butler, Tom Hardy. There's a strong main three.
There was Norman Reedus.
Yeah. I think that's a really good film, that one.
It was a good film, but then you come away thinking, like, nothing happened in that.
I mean, it didn't. I think that's probably what a lot of people might not like about it, because it felt very much like this film is just going to present this time period and this world of bike riders and what it was like, and it's not gonna do much more than that. It's not. It doesn't want to indulge in drama, and that's clearly a decision that filmmakers decided they wanted to do. And it could make it dull for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think also the entire film I was distracted by how bad Tom Hardy's voice was in it.
Well, like his voice he does in Venom.
Yeah.
It is an odd voice, that one.
It is, yeah.
I don't mind it. I mean, I think it kind of suits the character there. I think a lot of people were angry at Jodie Comer in this film. They found her voice annoying. Mm-hmm. I liked Jodie Comer in this film.
I did. I think the standout character for me was Austin Butler's character. I think he was very good in it, but
yeah, he was. For me, it was Jodie Comer, and I think she's slightly neurodivergent, probably in the film.
Yes.
It's just a solid film about a time of bike riders, and it makes you think about what that's like, the culture around it. I like the idea of what started as something quite meaningful for one generation became something very different for the next, and it kind of got derailed in what it meant. And that's quite a tragic idea.
Yeah, I think it is a very good film.
Yeah, but also, I could see a lot of people would find it dull because nothing does happen.
Like I was never bored when we were watching it, and I wasn't like searching for more. But after we were done, I was just kind of like, well, that's a film I've seen, kind of thing.
Yeah,
like,
I don't think it's one I'd want to watch again.
It's one that, like, when we're thinking about films we've seen in the cinema, it's one that I sometimes do forget about.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't anything too special.
I think if I saw it come up on Netflix, if we're looking for films to watch, I'd go, Bike Rides, I enjoyed that. And then I'd scroll on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you put at 30?
I put the first Omen.
Okay.
The horror movie prequel to The Omen, or Omen, I don't know.
This is another weird coincidence of I have also put this one above.
Again?
Yeah.
Right. Well, the thing about that one for me, I didn't know this was a prequel to anything else. I had no idea. And that made the ending quite underwhelming, because it's like, what? Where's this going?
Yeah,
and if I knew there was a following film where it would have carried on, I suppose it would have made more sense. But at the time, I was just a bit like, this is quite an underwhelming end. I think I've put it there mainly because, well, as far as prequels go, I think it does quite a good job. It's an entertaining film on its own. There's some mystery I was intrigued by. I quite like the idea at the centre of it. It's really hard to explain that in a way that doesn't sound ridiculous, and I think they do a good job that they're trying to give birth to the Antichrist.
It is very well made.
Yeah.
It's a very good film, like, in that sense.
There's some creepy bits. There was the gross out bits that got rid of those group of teenagers in the film. They left
like
very
when
abruptly.
There's like a birthing scene with like a hand coming out, and it's very like...
They clearly weren't up for that.
In there. Like,
they were like, right, I'm leaving, and they shot out of the cinema.
They're the ones. So you went over to them and told them, "Can you be quiet, please?" And then they started to blame me for the noise who was sat right next to you. Yeah, that
made me laugh. Yeah, I was like, I get you having fun, but you make it. There's a lot of other people that are getting annoyed by this. Can you just be a bit more quiet? And like, it's not us, it's her pointing to you. And it's like, no, she's my girlfriend. Or fiance now, okay. Yeah. I said girlfriend then. That quite made me laugh though.
That's funny.
Yeah, and then they left not long after that because of a gross out scene. But I wouldn't criticise much about this film. It feels fine. I think we're into that middle territory where most of the films are fine. But, I mean, would you see it again?
I don't think I would.
No.
I think this is one of them films that, whilst it's fine, I don't necessarily have a lot to say about it because it didn't leave like an impact on me. It was just a film I saw, enjoyed. It's
one of those ones as well, once you know what it's all building up to and the revelation and the twist of it and things, once you know that, that's kind of the film done. You don't really want to watch it again because you already know it. I don't think it's one of those ones where you'd enjoy watching it a second time to spot the clues. And I don't think... Apart from the obvious things it would be saying, with criticism of Christianity, or Orthodox Christianity, and how that can be, how far that can go or be subverted, and the kind of abuse angles of this film, which were well done as well. Apart from that, I don't know what I'd say about it.
No.
So that was mine. That's your next one.
That was my 29, yeah.
What was your 30?
My 30 was Bikeriders.
Oh, yes. So that's that one. So my 29, if yours was that, mine was Trap. You shocked?
Yeah, because I've put that quite high.
Have you?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people hated this film as well. But I was of the impression that it was very fun. I think what people misunderstood is that the character is nowhere near as brilliant as he thinks he is.
That's
He's
the
not
thing.
the mastermind he thinks he is.
He's meant to be seen as a bit pathetic and desperate. And...
He is. He's so pathetic in the film, and he's so incompetent at moments, but he thinks he's a mastermind, and that's really fun to watch him do.
And I think Josh Hartnett does so good in this film.
Yeah.
I think the acting is very good.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people mistake the meaning with him being a bad actor.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the case at all.
I think his character is someone struggling to read how a conversation goes and how to respond to it. Mm-hmm. And I think some of the shots, the like very focused on faces, works for that really well. And the like one-to-one conversations feel so awkward. And that's really well done. But I think there are problems with this film. I think at points I can see why people think he's supposed to be a mastermind, because it does have him magically escape a car somehow and change costume in a way that doesn't make sense.
I think the ending to the film is a bit of a letdown.
I think it should have ended sooner.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think you needed the bit at the end, because it feels like they added an extra bit to try and explain how the trap premise happened, like to do with his wife and that. And I think it's just better not having that scene altogether.
Yeah.
Like, because when you think about it, this premise of why the hell would cops surround an arena to find him? How does this even happen?
You know someone in this building's a serial killer, so what you're going to do is make sure no one can escape the serial killer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is a stupid premise, and I think the film made a mistake of trying to explain that and trying to make it seem realistic, and they used up a lot of runtime trying to explain it, and I just don't think they should have done. I mean, they should have gone, yeah, it's a bit ridiculous, but it's fun. We're going to enjoy it. Because I do enjoy that. It is a fun idea. And that first half of the film is a really good bit. The second half, I quite like the idea of it, but then it kind of goes on too long. I think they had a natural ending much sooner in the film, and then they kept going because they wanted him to keep coming back and escaping things. And also, I don't think M. Night Shyamalan's daughter is a great actress. I don't think she wasn't awful. She just about passed, but I don't think she should have been given so much runtime.
No, because I kind of wanted her to stay as just the artist kind of singing. Yeah. And everything else is kind of going on around her. Not that she was involved, like she knew about this big master plan and she's like now trying to stop him herself. Yeah. And I think that's when it got a bit like, oh, come on. Like,
yeah. I kind of like the idea at first because it was so unexpected, but I don't think it delivered that. No. There's a lot of fun in this movie. And there's a lot I do like about it. It's also got a lot of problems, though. But it's one of those films where you kind of want to switch your brain off to the problems. You kind of want to forgive it because the premise is fun, even if it's stupid. And it is a really good Josh Hartnett performance.
One of my things is, I said this to you at the time, didn't I? Josh Hartnett was one of my first ever celebrity crushes. After seeing him there's a film called The Faculty, which is like a alien kind of horror.
Is he the villain in that?
Movie? No.
Okay. I was wondering if you have the thing for villains.
No, I don't have a thing for villains. But ever since then, been a big celebrity crush of mine, and he's not really in a lot of stuff, and I think he is a really good actor.
He's very good in Oppenheimer as well.
Yeah. So it was kind of nice to see him, like, main character in something.
Yeah. It just feels like one of those films where M. Night Shyamalan had a really good idea, and it almost worked, and you just feel like, please, could you have got an editor to just fix some of these problems before you filmed it? Because it's not far off being a brilliant movie. Just a few fixes. That was my 29. Yours was the first Omen? Yeah. What's your 28?
My 28 is Longlegs.
Okay, so you put it quite a bit higher than mine. Is that mainly because of Nicolas Cage, or...?
Yeah. I think, like, if it wasn't for him, it would have been a lot lower on my list.
Yeah, I mean, I found Michael Monroe good in it, but...
Yeah.
Mine was Twisters. Okay. Which was the remake of an original film about twisters.
I think the original's called Twister.
Yeah, and this one, it's about twisters, starring twisters, lots of twisters. It's a good film, I think.
I think it's good, yeah.
I think it wasn't as much of a horror type thriller thing as I was expecting. I think I enjoyed learning about clouds and the weather and twisters and how these things happen. I just found it just genuinely quite interesting because I don't know much. We don't really get tornadoes in the UK.
No.
So that whole world feels a bit alien to me. I was very confused why none of the general public understood where to go in a Twister.
Yeah.
I feel like if I lived there, surely there should be a lot of government education done to help people understand what to do.
Or like have like secure buildings where people can like go to.
But it is America, so they don't do much for the people today.
I think also this film, like it's something that I would never ever do in a million years. But like there was in this film, I did kind of want to go tornado wrangling.
Yeah, it did make it look interesting, didn't it? And it is like on a kind of scientific and artistic level. Suddenly, they're very interesting twisters.
I think the starting sequence as well was very good.
I mean, you knew how the starting sequence would end, but it's still well done. I thought whatever he was called, the Tornado Wrangler. I thought he was going to be a really annoying, obnoxious character, but he wasn't. He was.
What's his real name? Glenn Powell, but I can't remember the character's name.
I think it was Tyler something. He would be called Tyler something, wouldn't he?
Or Chad, or.
I think. And I like their relationship. That's another one where it isn't a romance.
Well, there is like a little bit of flirting, but it's never...
Yeah, explicit.
Yeah, there's not even a kiss in the film, I don't think.
No.
I saw like on like TikTok and stuff afterwards, people like, oh my god, they didn't even kiss. I can't believe they've left the kiss out of this film. And it's like...
I'm glad they didn't.
It wasn't needed.
No. I think there's the other character, the old friend who runs the like corporate side of Twister hunting. I think they did his villain bit just a bit slightly generic. That was a bit felt like you'd seen that beat in a movie over and over again of being the business evil side who's been sold out, and they're the plucky, underfunded people doing it, with heart. But I didn't mind that.
No,
I think the action was quite well done. It's probably quite hard to make a movie where the twisters is what's causing everything, to keep that kind of momentum and that tension throughout it, but I think that mostly worked.
Yeah,
I quite like the bit when a cinema blew apart. That felt very meta, but in a way that was just like kind of a fun gag. I didn't mind the gimmick of that. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I didn't think I would, and then I did, and that was a fun surprise.
I was expecting to really not like it, but I also really enjoyed it. So
that's the thing I find fun about having free passes in the cinema, because we do see things even though we don't expect to like them, and that does lead to a lot of nice surprises, and that is really fun.
I think it has changed my perspective on like what kind of films I actually enjoy.
Yeah.
And how many good films have I missed out on in the past because I just put it down to, well, I wouldn't like this.
And it happens a lot, I think, on the internet when there's specific problems with a film where people just pan it and then nobody sees it because they think it's just that. But a lot of the time, even the bad films, I do find things I quite like in them.
Yeah, I think this is why you don't trust reviews sometimes of films as well.
Yeah.
Because I think reviews are opinions. And, for example, a lot of people probably on this list would say that Deadpool's the best film of the year when we really didn't like it, so...
That said, I mean, a lot of the films we quite enjoyed. I don't know whether I'd recommend people paying a full price ticket to see, though.
No.
I don't...
But...
If I was paying 15 quid, I don't think I would have been as bothered about Twisters.
No.
So there is that, but only got free passes.
I don't think I'd be incredibly disappointed though either. It was a fun experience.
No. Yeah, I think it's a fair place on the list. Mm-hmm. That was my 28. My 27 was Seize Them, and I kind of wanted to put it higher because it is just so charming, but it's got the flaws you'd expect that film to have when it is a tiny budget and it doesn't feel like they've really scripted much, and it is just a group of friends messing about. It kind of lands where you'd expect on a list. It's fun, you enjoy it, but it's not a blow you apart movie. What was your 27?
I feel like I've been really unfair here, and I think this is one that I do regret the placement of potentially.
Right.
I put Love Lies Bleeding.
Did you? Mm-hmm. I don't know where I put mine. Okay, Love Lies Bleeding. Is that one do you think people have seen? Do you think we need to explain that one?
I'm not sure. We can give like the general...
Okay, starring Kristen Stewart and... I can't remember.
I can't remember them.
They were both very good in the parts, though.
Yes, really good.
A movie set in the 80s. It's a lesbian relationship between the two. They are both... One's a bodybuilder, the other one works in a gym, but is tied up in all sorts of criminal dealings from her dad and his kind of not mafia, it's not that level, but criminal dealings going on. Yeah. And how that kind of restrains their relationship and the culture at the time, and it's a really confusing, messy, kind of dark relationship between the two, and it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. I did really like this film. I think it might be the ending that kind of threw it off.
It is an
me.
odd ending.
Mm-hmm.
I think it either works for people or it doesn't.
Like, I understand that it's not necessarily meant that... Because it's not really a spoiler, is it? I don't know. Well, it is, but I don't think people will care.
Something oddly supernatural happens out of nowhere.
Yeah, so, like, the entire film, it's kind of just like a...
Very realistic
kind of film. And then at the end, all of a sudden, like, the bodybuilder kind of grows to, like, giant size, and...
Yeah.
It's just very confusing. And I understand maybe that is meant to be how she maybe saw herself,
Yeah,
or, like, how she feels.
I feel like it's the two of them sort of gone into a sort of honeymoon, deny reality with their relationship, kind of escape. Mm-hmm. And on the one level, it presents it as very rosy and happy and idealistic, but you feel like there's something dark underneath it, like they're avoiding the truth.
And then right at the end, it shows bodybuilder lady sat in the car while...
Oh, she's dragging that body out.
Yeah, while Kristen Stewart's character's, like, dragging a body.
That's a very strong ending. I like that as an ending. It's kind of dark and also funny. And yes, it is just, I suppose, an exploration of a dark relationship and how it almost could have been something quite healthy.
Yeah.
And it kind of is in a way.
It is, but then there is, like, levels of...
A lot goes wrong. There's a lot...
Abuse, almost, in...
Yeah. There's obviously murder in the film. And
drug use.
Yep.
Oh, that's one bit of the film that makes you feel a bit like, oh.
Oh, yeah, the drugs.
It shows her injecting, I guess, steroids, right?
Yeah.
And it shows, like, the veins and, like...
They've done that very well. I think it's really well filmed.
Mm-hmm.
Really well acted. And there's a lot to enjoy about it. But is it that memorable? Does it leave a big impact?
It didn't leave a big impact on me, I don't think.
I think the impact could have been bigger for what it is.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any faults, I'd say, about the film. I don't think there's bits... I mean, yeah, the ending was confusing at the time, and that threw me off because I didn't get what was going on at the time.
I kind of wish they wouldn't have done that because the movie was all so realistic. It felt like yeah. Do we have to bring things like that into? Can't something just be outright realistic?
I don't think it ruined the film, though.
I don't think it ruined it, but I think I was a little disappointed.
I wasn't ready for that kind of change in the tone. But yeah, I think that's a fair placement for it in a way. I'd put it higher than that, though.
Mm-hmm.
What was your 26?
26 is where I put Twisters.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty similar. Mine was MaXXXine.
Oh, okay.
Which was another movie a lot of people hated. And I feel like that's one that might be misunderstood. I wrote a Patreon article about this one, didn't I?
Yeah.
And that's one of those ones where I start writing it and then figure out what I'm saying. And it makes me appreciate the film a lot more.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that film, it's what? MaXXXine is this porn star who wants to get into real acting, but she's got a dark past that keeps creeping up. And it's kind of a level where she's acting as a protagonist in a thriller slasher movie. And also that's what's going on in her life. And she's kind of the two. And I like that idea because I think it feels to me like, on the one hand, we're supposed to see her like a good protagonist doing the things, but I feel like she's not a good person. It's just like the film wants you to view her in a slasher light where you forgive all the moral things they do and the murders because they're that kind of movie protagonist.
Yeah.
But like if you step back and think about it, this is a character who hasn't grown or changed and is quite a bad person, and that's really interesting how you kind of get sucked into going along with her. And also, of course, the people she's killing they're awful.
Well, yes,
they're a lot more awful.
Yeah.
But I find that kind of moral ambiguity interesting in it. And I liked the main villain. I think they were absolutely hamming it up, and that was so fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think this film does have its funny moments as well as...
Yeah. It's got some... I liked the bit where she had the mould stuff on her. They had to get a mould of her face for the film. And they poured all the plaster or whatever it is on her. And there's a slight bit of kind of body horror and tension there. And that was a really well filmed bit.
Yeah.
I didn't like the bit where she stamped on someone's balls.
In her, like, stiletto high heel.
Yeah. I mean, that was an early indication, I think, of how...
Wasn't that the end of the film?
No, that was near the start.
It was. It was when, like, she's in that alleyway bit. And
Yeah. as an early indication of whilst she's killing people who aren't good, that doesn't necessarily make her good. Mm-hmm. It was an interesting, solid film.
Yeah.
Quite felt like it was made in the 80s. That was what was nicest about it, I think. It really felt like an 80s thing. Did it end the best? I don't know.
I don't remember the ending, really.
Okay, that probably means no.
Might say a lot, yeah.
But you've clearly put it higher than me. Mm-hmm. All right. Is it your 25?
My 25 was Never Let Go.
Ah, mine was 23. That's one we saw just yesterday. Mm-hmm. And I still don't know what to think of that film. I mean, that one could go anywhere on my list because I haven't made up my mind about it.
Yeah, I think it could either go higher or lower depending on what you get out of the meaning.
Yeah.
I still don't fully know what I think in that sense.
We probably shouldn't spoil this one.
No, because it's very current.
The idea of the movie, or what the trailer sets up, is that this family lives in a forest and there's evil out there, and the house magically protects them, and therefore they can't go outside unless they're still in contact with the house. They have these long ropes that are like touching the house, and they tie it around them, and they can never let go of the ropes, otherwise the evil will get them. Mm-hmm. And then it's them, I suppose, basically struggling with starvation in this forest, trying to get enough food, afraid to let go of the rope. Is there a real evil? Is there not? Is the mum quite abusive? I think in a lot of ways, possibly.
Yeah.
And how has that affected the mind state of these children? It feels really quite dark and moving in that level of it. The level of it was exploring the psychology of this family. I found really, really interesting.
Yeah. I really did like this film. I think acting wise as well, I think especially the children were very good. There's one scene in it which involves a dog. I won't go any further.
Yeah.
And
that made me very tense.
Yeah. I was crying. It was
very well done.
Yeah.
That does not mean a dog dies necessarily.
Might do.
But there's a scene involving a dog.
You have to watch it to find out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the acting on that scene especially was just amazing.
I think that whole section of the film was like the peak for the film. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure about the ending. I'm still not sure.
I'm not sure. It was either great or not. Maybe like in a future video we'll come back and...
Yeah. I feel like I could make an analysis video on this movie, but I also feel like I'm not sure if I don't know if the film's being ambiguous and it's hard to pinpoint what it means, or if it's deliberately doing things that contradict itself just so nobody can know what it means.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, it's a solid film. Slightly slow beginning, but you're so intrigued about this weird idea and what's real and what's not that it does keep you captivated, I think. Mm-hmm. And they are very good performances, and it's really sad seeing what these children live with. It did make me quite sad.
Yeah, me too.
I put The Crow, the original, the 1994 film. What was that, 25?
25.
Yep. Is yours a lot higher? I mean, there's a lot I loved about that. It's the first time I'd seen it. That's the only time I've seen it. It was in the cinema. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'd even really heard of it. No.
I think I'd mentioned it to you.
Yeah, you mentioned it because about Brandon Lee.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know what the film was or anything. And I think it's got a really strong atmosphere. I think there's a lot of good humour in it, actually, surprisingly.
Yeah, definitely.
It is quite moving. The lack of the child character in the remake is a problem. I think it is
missing. I think
the cop as well was actually very good in the original too. The villain is a lot stronger. It feels really comic book in a way that you just love. Where
I think the remake felt comic book, but in a way of here's this indestructible kind of guy, and because they keep showing things of him like brought back numerous times.
Yeah,
which I thought was like cheapening it a bit. But I think with this one, you feel the desperation behind the character. You feel the love he had for her and how he just wants to make things right.
Yeah. I suppose what I mean by comic book is like not in a Marvel sense either.
I
don't think Marvel films feel comic book. They feel like their own thing.
Yeah.
But like but very like atmospheric, and everything's kind of enhanced to another level and almost kind of symbolic and mythic, and everything's like pops. And it's kind of almost cartoonish in that way, but not ridiculous. It's a great feel to the film. He's very good in the part, Brandon Lee. The action, I think, is very good as well. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's much really to criticise about the film.
No, I think it's almost perfect for what it's trying to do in the film.
I think that's why I've scored it where I have, because it is a comic book action movie with a slight bit of fun to it.
Yeah.
It's very edgy as well when you think about it. But I like that. The kind of angsty teen feel. I think if I'd seen this film when I was 13, it would have been one of my favourites.
I think I just really love the whole crow element and like how
I do.
Crows carry
The souls
your
to the
soul
dead.
to the afterlife.
I love crows as animals as well.
Me too.
I think they're very underrated. Incredibly intelligent birds. I don't think I would criticise this film. Mm-mm. It's sad, obviously, with Brandon Lee's death.
Yeah, because I think like it is such a shame, his death.
Yeah,
I think he could have gone on to be a very big actor.
Yeah,
but...
it's a very solid movie, and I when I said about angst or edginess, I mean that in a good way. I think here.
Yeah. I think edgy sometimes can mean trying too hard, but I think it
suits.
Yes. Yeah.
24. You're gonna hate when I put 24. I put The Fall Guy. I thought it was going to be a lot higher than this, but it's not. Are you accepting of that, or?
I get it, because like from now on, I think is when I really started to struggle. Yeah. Because I think all the films from now on are very solid movies in their own kind of way. Like, yeah, I have Fall Guy quite a bit higher, but I'm not offended that you've put it so low, because it's personal preference, isn't it?
A lot of people didn't see this movie, did they? Despite that it was
I understand
battered to death
I
with
was
the
going to
trailer.
say, I understand though why people wouldn't, because I think like from the trailer, I don't think they advertised it right in the slightest.
We thought it looked really bad, didn't we?
And initially we were like, oh, we're never going to see that. Like it looks, but then I think like we were looking for something to watch one weekend, and we're like, oh, let's just kind of see what it's about.
Yeah, I think if it had been anyone other than Ryan Gosling, this film wouldn't have worked. Like, he's perfect cast for that.
Yeah, I think Emily Blunt is really good in it as well.
Yeah.
And, what's the woman from Ted Lasso's name?
Hannah Waddingham.
I think she is so good in it.
She is. She gets the role to ham it up full, and she does it perfectly. I suppose it's one of those films where it's just fun. Yeah. It's stupid. It knows it is, but it's just enjoying that.
And I think it is... So, the whole premise of the film, if you haven't seen it, is he's a stuntman who was working on the set of a movie, and he gets injured really badly. Yeah. And he's in love with one of the women who works on the movie.
I mean, that's the bit I think I possibly would criticise about the film, but also is at the same time what I like, is the romance, because it's so sort of over the top and sentimental and almost ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that's kind of, it's parodying it. That's kind of is the parody element. It's parodying action, it's parodying romance, and it's definitely parodying Dune. The movie in it that they're working on is basically Dune, directed by Michael Bay.
I think this can come back to a point we made earlier about how Deadpool almost felt like it was mocking Furiosa. Yeah. Where I think this film feels more of like a homage to Dune. Yeah. I mean, they even have like Jason Momoa.
I think that's what I enjoyed the most about this film, is how, because it is doing a parody of Dune, but not to say, oh, Dune's bad. It's to say this is what Dune would look like if it was made by someone who did a bad job.
Bad,
like the movie is, you're so not meant to take it seriously in this film, and it's so obviously bad. Yeah. And the main actor guy, I've forgotten his name, like the guy who's playing like the star of the role in this film, is supposed to be the famous actor.
I can't remember what he's called, but he's played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. Yeah,
and he gets a monologue as the actor, and it's so bad. Yeah. And that's what's so fun about it.
I also do think whilst it is fun and stuff, I think it is a great homage to actual stunt people who work on these films and do get forgotten about.
Yeah, I mean, the stunts are genuinely very good in this film. Mm-hmm. And it's cool in the ending credits when you see how the stunts were done. That's just very interesting.
I also think the fact that they did a world record stunt on working on this movie is really cool.
I think it's just a very fun film.
I really like it a lot. Because I enjoyed it so much more than I thought I would. Yeah. I think that probably adds to why I put it so high, because I think some of my higher ones are ones that maybe I didn't think I was going to like, but I ended up loving.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't expect to find this one fun. I didn't expect to find myself laughing as much as I did.
We've watched this film 3 times, and I think every time I still enjoy it.
It is just a good one to whack on as well.
Yeah.
Because it's just simple, it's relaxed, it's fun, it doesn't take itself seriously.
And it's got cute dogs.
And it's some of the moments are visually interesting. The bit up when he takes drugs and there's a fight scene with that.
And he sees like the unicorn.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that went into this. It's not a run of the mill. I mean, it kind of is in the premise of it, but there's clearly a lot of creativity and care actually went into this film.
Yeah, I really like it.
What was your number?
My 24. My 24 is MaXXXine.
Okay.
We've already spoken about that.
Too higher than mine.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. 23 then.
I think this is where you're gonna...
It's not Fight Club, is it?
It's not Fight Club. This is where I put Dune Part 2.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay. Go on.
I think I really enjoyed the first Dune movie.
Yeah.
I'd never seen it until the night before we went to see Dune Part 2. Because we kind of wanted to be up to date on.
Yeah, we hadn't seen either of them, had we?
And the first one I loved. I think it started slow, but then I think towards the end I was really enjoying it. And I think when we went into the second one, I was excited because I was like, oh, what's going to happen? And I was a bit bored.
Were you?
I think visually it is amazing, but I don't think a lot of the characters work, in my opinion.
There's not as much depth to them as there could have been, no.
No, and
I think that's the film's biggest flaw, is the character depth.
I don't care about any of these characters.
Yeah, I mean, they feel to me less like real people than like mythic, symbolic type.
Yeah.
Which I get, but it does create problems for that. But I don't know, I found the second part so much more interesting than the first.
I preferred the first. I found the second one went on way too long.
Did you?
Yeah.
I think the humour's a lot better in the second one. You actually get some of that with Javier Bardem.
Yeah.
I think the action at the end of the second film, or everything it builds up to, that massive battle and how it ends, I think is so strong. And I think the first film kind of peters out at the ending. It's a bit of an odd end.
I don't know, I found the ending of this one quite weird.
Did you?
Like the whole... also, like, I think, like, certain characters felt a bit, like, they didn't know what to do with them at certain parts.
I mean, that's true.
So, like, is it Christopher Walken who plays...
Yeah.
Like, his character I was, like, a bit confused by. Then there was, like, Florence Pugh's character who I was very confused by.
Both of them needed more setup. There was also the character in the first film I've forgotten the name of now from the book. If you've read the books, he's a mentat, the old guy with the eyes.
Oh.
And he's just not in this film at all.
Yeah.
The second one, which was odd. I loved the battle at the end. I loved the fight scene with Austin Butler. I thought it was really well done. And I love how kind of ominous the ending is, where it feels like, is this a good thing? Is this a victory?
Yeah.
Is this going to lead to more chaos? I don't know. I think it's a really strong ending. I think the worm riding...
I would like to... That's
an immense bit of cinema.
Yeah. I do think that, like, this film just isn't something that I necessarily enjoy. I
mean, the thing with Dune, at the time I would have ranked it in my top 5. It's not that, because I haven't felt compelled to watch it again. Maybe if it came back in cinema, I think I'd want to, because it's such a massive spectacle in cinema.
Third one or whatever, I suppose.
Story-wise, though, no, I don't... And everything makes the... Because I read the books after seeing Dune Part 1 and 2, and everything that makes the book special in its ideas, I don't think is perfectly captured in the films. There isn't much humour either. Did you buy the romance?
No.
Okay. I kind of did in the idea that it was like a mythic thing, or it feels like these aren't... It feels like this is a story told hundreds of years later. And that's kind of what makes it work for me, I think. But I get that the characterisation isn't strong. That is its weak point. But I don't think it's as low as that. I put for 23 Never Let Go, which we've kind of already said. That could go anywhere. It's just the ending I've not made up my mind about. I still don't know what I think.
Yeah.
22?
For 22, I put Civil War.
Ah. I put it for 21. So that's one spot off. For 22, I put Bikeriders.
Okay, yeah.
Because I just found the atmosphere of it and the time period so interesting. I didn't mind that nothing happened. Civil War, should we talk about that then? If that's my 21, your 22?
Yeah. It's hard to know where to start when you're talking about this one, really.
It was a film that a lot of people were excited about, and I think a lot of people were slightly disappointed when they saw it as well.
Yeah.
It looks amazing in a trailer. I think the fact this was made of a budget, I think it was about 50 million, the budget, so remembering wrong, is incredible because it looks like it had double the budget.
It is a very nice looking film.
Yeah. How all of the destroyed areas and all of the helicopters and everything. And it's great on that level. Do you think it's fair people feel a bit disappointed by it? But did you feel disappointed?
The thing is, I didn't know what to expect. I'd seen one trailer for it. And I hadn't really looked into it too much. So I didn't go in with any expectations about what the film was going to be about, really. So I don't think I was disappointed because I just didn't know what to expect.
Yeah. I think it's a difficult film to make about a civil war in America at a time when I think America is quite polarised.
Yes, yeah.
It's a difficult time to release something like that, and I think they did it well. I think
it's not. They don't film it in a way of where it's supportive of one side or the other.
No, they avoid that, and actually I think that's what I found most meaningful in it. Because I really liked at the start of the film, you've got Nick Offerman as this president who's kind of caused the civil war, and this whole film is about this journalist and this war photographer travelling to try and meet him, trying to secure an interview about this war, to kind of have this big conversation to learn why this has happened, what this war is about, and it never happens, really. You get to him, and he's just this scared old man with soldiers around him saying, "Don't let them kill me." And I kind of like how that is, how this war there isn't a big monologue reason behind it. It's just this slightly pathetic, tragic thing that exploded.
Yeah.
And you can't really sum it up or give an objective reason for the war. It's just a horrible thing that happens. I really liked that as an idea.
Yeah.
That's the most meaning I got out of the film, I think, though.
Yeah, I don't think I got a lot from it, but I did really enjoy the film.
Yeah.
A lot.
I think it feels actually, on that point, like it is a film about a war photographer just taking the photos and not delivering a message, just presenting what it's like. And that kind of makes sense. I think she's very good in the part.
Kirsten Dunst.
That's the one. I was going to say Kristen Stewart. Nick Offerman is good. Jesse Plemons is good in his...
Yeah, I forgot about that whole... I think that scene in particular, people, if they've seen it, they'll kind of know. I think that scene in particular is heartbreaking with him. And I think he does them roles... That is one thing I will say, that his character in this is very similar to his character in Breaking Bad.
He has become a bit typecast, I think, hasn't he?
We say that, but there's one film on this list that has him in that I rate quite highly.
Yeah. But I don't know, I think when you make a film about a civil war in America at the time, you expect it's going to say something massive, and I think that's part of the disappointment.
Yeah.
Because it's not super deep and super philosophical and meaningful. It's kind of presenting a war and leaves it at that. And I think that can make it feel a bit disappointing, but I don't think that's fair necessarily. That said, was this as impactful as it could have been? Did this feel as moving and as tragic and dark as seeing a war?
And I think if it maybe would have done, it would have been definitely higher on my list.
Yeah.
Because I think it lacks a lasting impact on you.
I think it should have gone slightly further into tragedy and been a bit more horrific, really.
Like the true realities of what war is like in the real world.
I mean, I think about things like the show The Pacific, which did the Pacific War, and there's scenes in that still sort of sit in me. And I think this film needed something like that too. Yeah,
I agree.
Okay, I put it 21 though. What did you put 21?
I put Furiosa at 21.
Ah, yeah. I forgot about it because I don't know where I put Furiosa actually. I've got no idea. Furiosa, that was one where you didn't look interested from the trailer, did you?
Well, no, because I don't think the trailer really sells the movie very well.
No.
Plus, I'd never seen any like Mad Max.
I haven't either, to be honest.
But I don't think that you have to. I think if you know like the general premise of what Mad Max is, I think you can go into this film. Well, even then, I think you can go into it and understand it. I
mean, Mad Max is a film I've wanted to see for a long time because I know people say it's absolutely brilliant, and I've never seen it. And that was why I was interested to see this, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know anything about Mad Max, really. I'd never heard of Furiosa before.
All I know about Mad Max is like the cool like car kind of, not cool car, but like the big truck kind of thing.
I think Furiosa was a really strong film.
I really enjoyed it.
I did. I think this is another one that feels kind of mythic, but the action is really, really solid. Mm-hmm. I particularly the one with the Bobby Knocker or whatever it's called, when they got this big truck that they're all on, and it just feels so much like this should be a game.
Yes, yeah.
I'd love, as a co-op game where you're both, one of you's driving the truck, one of you's operating all sorts of bits on it, or you get out to let someone else take over at points and have a fight on top of it. It'd be a great game. It's very tragic. I think Chris Hemsworth is very good in the film. He's a character also hamming it up. For some reason, they've given him a prosthetic nose. I don't know why.
I think they have. It's hard to tell.
I hope they have, otherwise it's an insult to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very strong in it. And I just find the world interesting. There's a lot of just cool world building there. Mm-hmm. Set in it is a cool aesthetic. The sort of Dune, but ramped up on petrol. And everyone's ridiculous. Someone had a name like Erectus or something, didn't they? Yeah. Which is ridiculous, but also kind of made sense of all these people trying to be more braggy and more boisterous and seem more badass and fearless than other people.
Yeah, I think Anya Taylor-Joy was so good in this film.
Yeah, I think she was.
I think she has a face which can, especially her eyes, express like a lot of different emotions, and like I think her like face acting is very good. I was really on board with like the prologue of this film as well, when she's a child, to do with her mum. Yeah. That was a really strong start to this. It just feel massively epic, this film. Mm-hmm. I don't know how long it was. It must have been very long. I prefer the entire world in like Furiosa than I do in like Dune. Do you? Yeah. I know what you mean with that. I think it's more fun in Furiosa. I just think it's a really, really well-made film for what it wants to be. Yeah, of course. It's really good. I think Tom Burke is also good in it. I think he's called Tom Burke. I'm fairly sure his name is Tom Burke. The man she's with for some of it. Oh, yeah, I really liked him. Yeah. There's a lot of moving bits in this movie, I think. Mm-hmm. It's one of those... This is another thing as well, because I tend to not like, in movies, when they split it into parts. You only have a title come up saying part 1, part 2... And it did that in Never Let Go, which I wish it hadn't done in a lot of ways. I get why they did. It sort of suited it. A bit pretentious, makes it look like they're trying to make it more... Yeah, I do get that. Like, shouldn't the story just flow without you needing to put a title card in? I do kind of understand it with Never Let Go, though. Yeah, I do. And I think I do with Furiosa. I think it does work there. It feels like that kind of... Didn't they do it in Horizon? Did they? I think. If they did, it didn't work. It didn't make the story any more coherent. I loved Furiosa. I feel very sad that it was such a big flop in the cinema. And the director I've forgotten the name of he's really old now, and he's still doing things as strong as that. And it's very imaginative, and I loved it. Which is why I put it quite a bit higher than you. Mm-hmm. Yours was 20, wasn't it? Mine 21. Was 21. Okay, so we're on to 20 next, which was my Love Lies Bleeding. Okay. We kind of already said that one. I think that's What's your 20? For it. My 20 is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, mine is 19. It's right after this. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. That's another odd one, because I saw the first film, Rise of the Planet... I mean, well, not the first film. I haven't seen the original Planet of the Apes or the Tim Burton one. No. I've seen... Of the reboots, they did the trilogy, didn't they? And I saw the first one, which I think was called Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And
is that the one that's got Tom Felton in? Yes. I've seen that one, but that was quite a long time ago. I didn't see the others, though. Mm-mm. I can barely remember the first one now. And then we saw this, and so we kind of took this as its own story. And I think it is its own standalone thing. I think... It feels... I mean, it draws on that earlier trilogy, but it's separate enough. It touches upon previous characters, but I don't think they give you enough information that you don't necessarily have to have seen the previous ones to understand. And I really like the idea of this film. I like the idea that it's, about 100 years on from Caesar, who's the main character in those ones, and how his teachings have kind of gotten twisted because they can't remember him so well, and the ideas are subverted. I think that's a really cool idea. Yeah. And, yeah, seeing that this Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is kind of just as flawed as humanity was as well. Because there's a part of you that really wants to root for the apes and feels like I'm glad they've gotten rid of humans. Yeah. But then
the idea that they're also technically not much better anymore and are becoming human, and all that entails, is a cool idea.
Mm-hmm. I think the start to this film is truly heartbreaking.
You cried a lot, didn't you?
Yeah. I don't know. I think the entire film is just so well made.
I think the animation is stronger in this than it is in Godzilla X Kong.
Yeah.
And I really thought it was good in Godzilla X Kong.
I think, like, getting the emotion on, like, all the apes, like, faces and stuff, and, like, it was just perfect.
I mean, when almost all of the characters are apes, you've got to convey a lot in their face to keep you, like, engaged in the film. And that's a really hard task, and that they do it really well. I think it's quite slow after... There's that first beat of the film, which is very tragic. And then after that, I think it's quite slow. And that's probably why I didn't put it higher. Before it ramped, it, like, very, very slow bit, and then ramps up again.
Higher than me.
Yeah, but I mean, why I didn't, like, put it higher than that on the list.
Yeah.
I think that's the one slight flaw I would say about the film. But it's very solid. I liked it a lot. Mm-hmm. My 20, I already said. So my 19 was The Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
My 19, there's a part of me that doesn't want to put it here because I think it deserves more credit than this. But I am putting Empire Strikes Back.
Are you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, mine's not too different there. So we've seen A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back again in cinema recently. They've been showing one every Sunday. We missed they did The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith. Mm-hmm. I think we were on holiday for them, really. And we missed the first one. So we've just seen these. We haven't seen Return of the Jedi yet. You've put Empire Strikes Back lower than A New Hope.
Yeah, I think
which is controversial.
I did just prefer A New Hope. I think the pacing of Empire Strikes Back I find a bit weird.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it's... I feel like the versions they're showing in the cinema are extended versions or something, because I swear there's scenes I've never seen before, and there's little bits of scenes where I feel like they should have just cut this, because it slows it down for no real great need. Mm-hmm. I don't know which I mean, I know where I've ranked... I know which one I've ranked above the other, but I feel torn on it, because I think the fight with Darth Vader at the end of this is really good.
It is very good.
I love the atmosphere building up to that.
And I find Yoda in this film haunting.
I like him, though. He's a great character.
Yeah, it was great. But I was like, I also
how he looks, you
forgot how he looks. But then I forgot how bad Yoda looks in these movies.
Yeah.
But I think that just kind of adds to it, I think. But I don't really have a lot to say about the film. I think there's kind of a lot of nothing at certain parts.
Well, I know what you mean. The whole bit with Han and Leia and Chewie on the asteroid fields, and then they're inside a worm.
Yeah.
I feel like it's quite interesting, but as its own subplot, there's not really much in that. Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy the whole like Lando sequence.
I like when they get. I wish Han and Leia and all of that had gotten to Lando earlier, and had longer there before that twist. Because I feel like, there was a lot more character work that could have gone on there. I
think if you got to know Lando more, then maybe it would be more of a, like...
As I think for Han and Leia, most of their character work in this is just about a possible romance. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a huge amount else going on with their characters.
Plus, I think Han Solo comes across as quite creepy.
He does, but it was the 70s, so...
Yeah, plus I do stand...
80s,
I will always stand by the fact that I think younger Harrison Ford was one of the best looking humans ever.
Do you?
So, yeah.
I don't like his haircut in this film.
Oh, no, the haircut's tragic, but I think...
And I think
facially,
I think how it won't make sense to you, but I think how he looks and how he behaves makes me think a lot of Judd Nelson playing Bender in The Breakfast Club. It's very similar.
Yeah, never seen The Breakfast Club.
I think the standout moments of Empire Strikes Back are better than the standout moments of A New Hope. Mm-hmm.
But as a total film, I much preferred A New Hope, because I think A New Hope finished and like paced kind of how it should.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any moments of like...
The whole space battle with the Death Star is great, I think.
Yes, yeah.
I think the heist on the Death Star as well before it is better than the bit with Lando Calrissian, which is quite short.
I also like all the stuff with like Ben Kenobi and all that.
I do enjoy seeing Luke train and hearing all the sort of philosophical bits about the Force with Yoda, though. We
said, though, after we came out of seeing Empire Strikes Back, that we kind of agree that Mark Hamill isn't a very good actor.
I think he's a brilliant voice actor.
Yeah.
I don't think his acting as Luke is anything special. I think I felt that a lot more in Empire Strikes Back than I did in A New Hope. I don't think
he was all that bad in...
Yeah, I think when he's on his own with R2 and Yoda and he's having to carry it much more, I don't think he does. Maybe it's because he's still young at the time. I've not seen him in many other things as an actor.
It's kind of bad when a character that just beeps has more screen presence than you do.
Yeah. So I can see putting it there. That probably annoyed a lot of people because there's so much that's so good about Star Wars, the early films, that like you kind of take for granted because you're so used to it. Yeah. How inventive it was. It draws on Dune, I suppose, a lot really, but how visually great so much of it looks. The set designs and the atmosphere and all the different droids and characters and ships and like. It's easy to underrate how brilliant that kind of stuff is.
Yeah. I think in general, I do prefer the prequels.
I think I do. Oh, no, actually, I don't. I prefer the original trilogy. Yeah.
I think I do prefer the prequels, but it has been really nice seeing them again, because I haven't seen, like, Empire Strikes Back since I was probably, like, 10 years old.
No,
so not me. I'd kind of forgotten, like, I remember the main points, obviously, but, like, I'd forgotten kind of...
I think I feel sorry for C-3PO as well.
Me too.
I feel like he got away with it more in the first film, being the comic relief character. As at points in this one, I just feel like they're a bit of a dick to him, and because he's a droid, you don't have to take it seriously as any kind of racism.
Like when he's in pieces and he's kind of just on Chewie's back or whatever.
Yeah, and they switch him off earlier because he's annoying them. And I feel a bit sorry for him. I feel like he deserves to be more of a character in his own right.
I think idea would work if it was just Han Solo who was being mean to him.
Yeah,
but it's also Leia, it's also Chewie, it's also...
I think that is that would have been a lot better, because that would have drawn out Han's character more. I think it made him stand out more. Because he is a bit of an arsehole. Yeah, and he that's kind of what's interesting about him, but because the others go along with it,
yeah.
And that's a problem there, I think. Not a massive problem.
No, but I think it's just a little...
Anyway, I can see you putting it there. What was that, 19?
Yeah, what did you put?
Mine was Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, okay.
So my 18 was Kinds of Kindness.
So was mine.
Was it?
Yeah.
I mean, I was really torn on where to put this one, because it's so unlike any film I've ever seen.
I loved this film.
I did. It was 3 hours long, but
it did not feel like 3 hours at all.
No, I was engrossed. It's 3-hour stories that are separate stories, but done by the same actors. All about different kinds of kindness, or I suppose different ways that can be toxic.
Yeah, as I say, it's more so like different elements of kindness and how that can like kind of progress into something that necessarily isn't such a good thing. Yeah,
because all of them are pretty awful stories. Yeah. But also very funny. I didn't expect this film to be as funny as it was.
I think Willem Dafoe on the funny factor was like...
I love there's 2 separate scenes where he stands up and he's just wearing shorts.
Yeah.
It's a great gag.
I think the scene where one of the characters' wife is missing or something, and he's like, oh... can we please watch the tape? As if like it's going to be like a video of her just like doing random things, and it turns out to be like a sex tape. Yeah,
then build it up like it's like a old heartwarming holiday or something.
I did love that.
Yeah, it's a very odd film, and that's what's so special about it, I think, because it is so unlike anything, and it is meaningful and dark, and you don't know where anything is going really.
Yeah.
And then it ends all right, I think. I think it's a fine ending.
Yeah,
it ends as well as something like this could possibly end. And I think the first story is the strongest in it, though. I think Jesse Plemons in that one in particular is great.
Yes.
How he just feels like a walking bag of bones, really, who isn't allowed to be his own person.
Yeah.
And that's so tragic and horrible, and it's such an odd film, and I love it.
I really, really enjoyed it.
And I think I would watch that one again. I'm going to have to prepare myself for 3 hours worth, but I think I would do it.
I think even if you watched it in 3-hour installments over like 3 different days, it would just feel like 3 different stories.
Yeah, And that would be strong as well.
Yeah.
You could do that. You could release it as a free-parter on Netflix, and that would also work. Number 17.
This is one that, had you asked me a few months ago to name my top 10, this would have definitely been in there.
Okay.
And number 17 is Wonka.
Is it?
Yeah.
Mine didn't make top 10 either. Slightly higher than that, though. I think when we first saw Wonka, that was one of the first films we'd been doing at the cinema. Neither of us had gone to the cinema before then, since we were like...
I think the film I'd seen before that was like one of the Paranormal Activities or something.
Yeah, I hadn't been since I was a kid, really. Apart from, obviously, we saw Oppenheimer. Well, I saw Oppenheimer, you saw Talk to Me, and we both saw Barbie together.
Yeah.
And so I think Wonka then felt like a particularly big cinema experience. And I loved it. I do love it. I don't think it's as strong as Paddington. It's very similar to those films, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
But it's a musical, and it's about Wonka.
I adored Wonka when we saw it. I kept saying every weekend I wanted to go and see Wonka again.
Yeah, you did.
I don't know. I think
it's very cozy. It's very fun. The music's actually quite good.
And I do like that they kind of use Gene Wilder's Wonka as the Wonka.
Yeah.
In this, that's the kind of story they're going down.
And I very much hope if they did make a sequel, it becomes a lot darker. Because there are dark hints in this film, but Wonka himself isn't a dark character.
No, he's quite, full of hope and...
Yeah. It's a solid film. I think I did have problems with it. I made a video at the time where I think I criticised it the whole way through and then gave it a 9 out of 10. It's a lovely film. This
is another film that has me in tears at numerous points. I think especially the scene where Wonka and... What is the little girl called?
Noodle.
Yeah. That Wonka and Noodle are on the roof dancing with the balloons.
Yeah.
That bit makes me cry.
Yeah. It is quite moving in a lot of places. It's very fun. And I think this is one of those films where a lot of people didn't like the idea of it, thinking, well, why are you doing a Wonka prequel? That feels like a cash grab. But it's made by a director who has a very strong vision and is very creative and unique in his style. And it works as a result. I don't think if you'd explained to anyone we're going to do Wonka as a very cosy musical...
But with undertones of it being some type of cartel.
Yeah. I don't think when you explain it, you feel like, well, what? But because it's made by Paul King and he did Paddington, and it feels... It's such a... Paddington films are flawless, in my opinion.
Yes.
And it's
especially Paddington 2.
Yeah, it's not quite as good as them, but it knows what it wants to be here, and it's got a vision, and it works. It does just work, this film.
I think, even outside of the whole, Wonka, that kind of story, I think you've got such interesting characters outside of that.
Yeah.
That it's not just about... Yeah, the film's called Wonka, but it's not just about, Wonka as a character, whilst you've got, Rowan Atkinson, who is
I love Rowan
amazing
Atkinson's
in
part.
this film.
Simon Farnaby's very, very good. I like him.
He's always good in them kind of roles there.
I did feel slightly disappointed by Matt Lucas, I think.
I think he is, out of the kind of 3
chocolatier men. Villains.
I think he is the weakest one, definitely, and I do think I would have replaced him with Reece Shearsmith.
Yeah, I could see that. Hugh Grant as an Oompa Loompa, I actually... Because I was wondering how they were going to do that. There's a lot of ethical concerns to do with the Oompa Loompas. And I think what they did makes sense.
Yes.
That he's a respectable gentleman, actually, and he's not going to be pulled into anything. And I kind of like the idea that they have a decent enough friendship in this film, and then it ends up with horrible slavery and Wonka tricking the Oompa Loompa later down the line. If they ever... They probably won't make a sequel, because it would have to be very dark. But Patterson Joseph as Slugworth...
He's very good.
I love him in Peep Show. He's made for this kind of role. Biggest disappointment, I think, is actually Timothée Chalamet. I mean, you didn't feel that, I remember you saying. But I just don't feel...
Whilst I'm one of these people, I don't understand kind of the hype around Timothée Chalamet.
I think he's very good in Dune.
But when I heard that he was going to be Wonka, I was a bit like... My dream casting probably would have been Jeremy Allen White, who looks... exactly like cool. Gene Wilder. But I do think what he brought to the role I don't think was bad by any means.
No, I mean, I don't think he was bad.
I didn't feel convinced that about his character sometimes.
No, I mean...
There didn't feel like much emotion behind him, and I think, like, Wonka is meant to be this kind of odd man.
Yeah.
And when Timothée Chalamet as Wonka was trying to portray the weirdness, it came across as very, like, forced and, like...
That's what bothered me. I don't think he's made for that kind of eccentric, energetic role.
There's a role, it's like something about being, like, downright crazy or something.
Yeah, the dark, chocolatey, nutty, absolutely insane or something like that.
Yeah. And them bits, I was a bit like,
I don't buy the delivery either, no.
But then, I think, with such other strong characters alongside him, I think they're what helps him work. Like, Noodle... I think she's amazing.
She is, yeah.
I think
Coraline.
Olivia Colman.
Yes.
So good.
Yes, Tom Bleacher as well, actually. Not Tom Bleacher, Tom Davis as Bleacher.
Davis, yeah. I like their kind of relationship.
I feel like everyone was very well cast, and then they picked Timothée Chalamet because he's a big actor, and that would draw people's seats, rather than it being a role he was made for. That's my feeling. Mm-hmm. He doesn't do a bad job, no, but I don't think he carries the film the way a protagonist should do. But yeah, I think I could see you scoring it where you did. Mm-hmm. That was 17, wasn't it?
Yeah, what did you put at 17?
I put Beetlejuice.
Ooh.
I was very tempted to... Because originally when we were planning out our lists, I just put mine in blocks to begin with. I put a bunch of films in excellent,
like
a bunch of films in good, meh, bad, and then I kind of ranked them after that. And originally I put Beetlejuice in excellent, but then I decided it probably belongs in the good category. We saw it, last weekend? The weekend before this one?
Yeah. And
I had an absolute blast of it, I think. I found it so fun. I think it's messy as hell. There's lots of, like is it his wife, you said, who plays whatever she was called in it?
Oh, she's called Monica...
Is that his wife?
Something with it, the one who staples herself together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think she was needed at all in the film. I don't know why she was there.
She was very much Tim Burton wanting to show off how hot his wife is.
She didn't really do anything, though. I mean, she did...
I adored the scene of her stapling herself back together again.
It was a cool scene. I don't think she necessarily added much motivation to Beetlejuice that wasn't already there. No. She turns up at the church and then...
gets eaten by a sand snake.
Yeah, nothing really happens. There's a lot of characters where it's a bit like, are they needed? Willem Dafoe, did he add to the story?
Yes.
Well, no, he didn't, but it's so much fun, you don't care. Mm-hmm. That story-wise, there's so many different... kind of like Ghostbusters, there's so many different things going on.
Yeah, I think this definitely worked a lot better than Ghostbusters did.
It did, because... unlike Ghostbusters, you don't care because you're just having such a blast of a time.
I also, I don't know why, but I never expected the twist of the boy she meets.
Well, don't ruin the twist,
well,
because it's still a recent film.
I'm not going to, but, I never kind of expected that
I didn't.
to happen.
I thought that was great. I
love the idea of a soul train.
That made me laugh, yeah, when they're playing soul music and just constantly dancing. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of fun little gags like that where you just felt like Tim Burton is just having a blast making it.
Yeah.
And just wants to throw in as much as he can. And it works how messy it is because that just suits what Beetlejuice is, I think.
Yeah, it's chaos. Bit all over the place. And
the whole film is chaos. And I think when we came out, there was that man behind us complaining, saying it was the worst thing he'd ever seen. And I could kind of understand why someone would feel that way, but I don't. I just find it really, really fun.
Yeah.
I would happily watch that film again. I think I prefer it to the original. The original was a lot structurally better, had more emotion to it, more theme, but this was just so much more fun, I think.
Yeah, I thought, is it Catherine O'Hara?
Yeah.
I think she was so good.
I loved her in that as well. I think she had a lot of the best comedy.
Yeah.
I think Jenny Ortega did a good job. I think that was the one bit where there was... Jenna? Is it not Jenny?
No, it's Jenna.
Oh, okay, Jenna Ortega.
I mean, it's probably short for Jennifer either way, but...
I think she's the one who did have a bit of emotion and heart to add to the film, and I think she did a good job with that. I think this film, it needed that kind of to anchor all of the chaos, and there's just about enough of it.
I also kind of like the element that there is someone in this family who is, trying to at least be normal.
Yeah. It's a good idea to draw in it, and what becomes of Lydia Dietz as well makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Her character going on to have a ghost hunting show just does make sense.
Yep. I liked it a lot. It feels, if you're going to make a sequel, and it's all these years down the line, I feel like they could have just gone... It could have been a film about Beetlejuice. I feel like they could have done that and it would have been a mistake, but it's not. It's a family drama.
They could have done like a backstory of Beetlejuice, and I don't like...
And because it is a family drama, that's then more space for Beetlejuice to be chaotic, I think, because he's not having to carry the story.
Willem Dafoe's, like...
That's my favourite thing about it.
Yeah.
There was no point to it, but it was just fun.
It was great, especially like when she's got like the cue cards behind.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if we should spoil what that was, but it's the best thing about it easily. That's kind of all you can say about it. It's just fun. Visually, of course, it looks good. I think Tim Burton is never a director that's fully convinced me. I don't think. I think I loved him as a child, and I think most people do at that age.
Yeah, I remember when I was at school, we had to do like a project on like our favourite film directors. Yeah. And I picked Tim Burton.
I think everybody would love Tim Burton at that age because it does just speak to you when you're a child. As an adult, I don't think he's always quite had enough to him, but Beetlejuice is an exception, I think.
Yeah. And
Beetlejuice is also an exception. I'd love them. I can't think of any black characters, of course, because it's Tim Burton. But that's Tim Burton. So I've got to mention that criticism, I think.
Yeah.
It doesn't ruin the film, but when he does it repeatedly, it becomes a bit of a thing you look out for. I can't help slightly watching the film trying to spot anyone who's not white.
There's something as well that, like, I watch it, and of course I'm aware of why she's not in the movies, but part of me did just want Helena Bonham Carter to be there.
Why isn't she in the movies
Well,
anymore?
they're divorced, aren't they?
Oh, is that literally it then?
Yeah, it
This
seems
ruined
so.
their whole working relationship.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame. Of course, the dad isn't in it also as well.
Well, yeah, we won't touch upon that, but yeah,
I really like how they handled that though.
Yeah, like they had his character, but he was like eaten by a shark, so you never saw like his face or anything.
Yeah, I like the way they introduced that. How it's just stupid.
That's the thing. I like how they made his character like a laughing stock.
Yeah.
Because I think the things that he has done, the actor, is horrible, and I think like if they would have had him in it anymore.
Well, I'm glad they didn't. It's also one of those difficult ones of do you completely write them out or do you find a workaround?
I think they kind of had to find a way, and I think going down the comedy route of writing them out was the best, because I don't think you should be giving emotion to a character.
I think they did a good job.
Like, I liked the bit where Lydia gets the call from her stepmom, Catherine O'Hara's character, about like there being news about the dad, yeah. And then when she gets there, she's like
expecting it to be divorce.
Yeah, and she's like, I can't remember what it is, but it's a very funny scene, and I kind of like how they did that.
I feel like it's been a long time since Tim Burton had a film that really hit. Yeah. I feel like he's needed this, but
it says a lot about how maybe Tim Burton's career's kind of going when it's sequels to iconic films that are going to get the recognition.
But I think if you're doing a sequel, this is what you should do. Just have a blast of it.
Yeah, for sure.
He clearly a lot of fun went into making this. I imagine the actors had a lot of fun.
Also, Michael Keaton doesn't look like he's aged a day in 30 years.
I did not guess he's as old as he is. No. He looks exactly the same. He's got so much energy. He's great in the part.
Even if you see him outside of character now, he looks like 50. He looks really good for his age.
He's great in this.
Yeah.
That's Beetlejuice. Mm-hmm. So that puts us on to 16, which is where I put Empire Strikes Back. I did put A New Hope higher. A New Hope's my 15, so that's my 16 and my 15, really.
My 15 is New Hope.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
My number 16 was Fight Club.
What?
Yeah.
16?
Yeah.
No, surely not. Mm-hmm. Not even top 10?
No.
Oh, God. Right, we'll talk about Fight Club in a minute. No, go on then. Tell me why it's there.
No, because we've got to do it in order, because we can't talk about New Hope when...
Tell me why it's there. Go on.
For me, I don't know. I think this feels like a very... I don't know how to word this without sounding...
Like you're wrong?
No. I don't think... This story touches upon, like, a lot of, like, toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
And them kind of things. Whereas I personally don't maybe resonate with the story.
No, I suppose it's
some
probably
people would.
More a male audience. I mean,
I did really enjoy the film, don't get me wrong. But I don't think I found meaning in it where some people might.
Yeah. Is there anything you think bad about the film?
I don't think it was a bad film in the slightest. And there was like a weird part of my brain that thought it looked really fun to go around like different meetings. I don't know what it was. I don't know. Not fun, but like...
No, I know what you mean. The idea of it does speak to you in some level, yeah.
So you kind of do understand on that level of why people would do that. And I think the film in general was very good, and rest in peace, Bob.
Yeah. Is there anything you would criticise about the film, to put it that low?
No, but I just don't think...
I think it's a flawless film.
I think it was very good. I just think there are films that I prefer for me personally.
I mean, I think that's fair. I can't think of a criticism of the film, really.
Because you find a lot of meaning in the film, probably.
I do,
whereas I don't.
It was my favourite film for years as a kid. Mm-hmm. I didn't understand it was supposed to be seen as a bad thing originally.
Yeah.
I was fully on board with wanting... I mean, I did start a fight club. And then it became more and more meaningful the more I realised that isn't the case. Mm-hmm. And that became kind of a journey for me with that film, I think. And I've also got a lot of angry comments on my videos on Fight Club.
Yeah. Especially about opinions about if Tyler was right or wrong to hold a gun to the guy's head or whatever.
Yeah, well his argument is, in the film, he holds a gun to someone's head, he takes it random, asks them what did they want to be when they grew up. This is a guy who's working in just a shop.
Yeah.
And he said he wanted to become a vet. Why didn't you become it? The studies were too hard. And he says, I'm going to keep your ID so I know where you live. If you're not on your way to becoming a vet in 3 months, I'm going to find you and I'm going to kill you. Mm-hmm. And Tyler's argument is that's a good thing for this character, that he's going to wake up next day and it's going to be the best day of his life. And I'm not convinced it would be.
I think there's probably a lot of trauma that comes along with someone holding a gun to you. Or...
I think near-death experiences, I think there can be a positive to them in that side. I mean, I had my own near-death experience. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a positive for me. I think it was more traumatic and it affected me for a long time. And I think this isn't a near-death experience. I think this is someone holding a gun to your head and threatening to kill you and hunt you down in the future to go and do something that you may not necessarily want to do. The reason he gives when a gun's to his head that he didn't become a vet is because the studies were too hard. But why then didn't you work harder? Is it just you were lazy?
Yeah.
Is there you didn't have as much motivation as you thought? You're not as passionate as you thought? That's why the studies became too hard? Were there more important things than the studies in your life at the time? You don't know. Mm-hmm. I think, but I got a lot of comments telling me, what do I know? I've got a British voice. I don't know anything about how real life is. I don't know anything about what it would be like to have a gun to your head. You get a lot, I think, when I articulate, because I don't sound this posh, I don't think ordinarily. No. But I think when I articulate in a microphone, I do sound quite posh. And I think people imagine...
that you're thinking you're superior or something.
Yeah, I think they imagine I've grown up rich and cosy as a result.
Yeah.
Not that I've had a bad life. I haven't.
No, but you've experienced struggles. And I also think, even if someone does grow up rich, you can still...
Yeah,
you can still have life struggles. You still have life experiences that aren't pleasant.
Yeah. I suppose the point I was trying to get at was that... people
assume that you haven't had bad experiences when they necessarily shouldn't do that because...
Yeah.
They don't know...
Joker's another film where this happens, where I think there's a point I made that's misunderstood. But I think it's those films like that are ones that can mean so very much to certain people.
Yeah, of course.
That the idea of anyone criticising or seeing it in a different way to them does make them very, very angry because it means so much. Mm-hmm. And I can understand that, I think, because it did used to mean a hell of a lot to me too.
Yeah, and I think it is good for people to find films or music or things like that do hold a special place in that sense. But then I think people should also be open to the idea that just because this means so much to you, not everyone else has to feel the same way about it as you do.
Is that your reason for me to accept why you've put it number 16?
Well, I mean, no. I think the fact that I just don't resonate with the movie.
Yeah.
What it is meant to perceive as being bad isn't something I've ever had to think about, or I've never...
Yeah, I mean, I get that, yeah. I mean, it isn't really a female film. There's one real female character, and everybody treats her misogynistically.
Yes.
And she doesn't really get much space to voice her perspective, which is kind of the point. I
felt quite sad for her character a long time.
I mean, that's the point, I think, really. And it does a good job with that. But, yeah, that does make it hard to resonate there. Mm-hmm. All right, so that was your 16.
Yeah.
My 16 was Empire Strikes Back. Mm-hmm. We've talked about that. My 15 was A New Hope. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that then.
Okay.
Maybe it's a bit generic, the story of it, do you think, in a way? if it wasn't set in space with all sorts of weird, brilliant other things, is it your bit your run-of-the-mill?
Probably.
Meets a guru leads him, his parents die so we can go with the guru, then the guru dies and he's got the big baddie to fight and becoming his own.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something I didn't ever realise until we're watching it in the cinema that I liked about it is the bit when he's in the Death Star and he's got to shoot into the hole.
Yeah.
And he's got to use the Force to do it. I didn't realise that the actual technology and the analysis to try and do that was fundamentally flawed and would have got it wrong. I think that's the idea, that the science didn't work, and that's why he had to use the Force instead.
Yeah.
And I quite like that as the idea, that the science and the analysis can get it wrong, which is cool. Mm-hmm. I think the fight scene there with Ben Kenobi and Darth Vader is a little bit underwhelming now that we've moved on a lot. The choreography isn't great.
Oh yeah, no, it looks very bad, but like...
I think what I love most about this film really is how... And it sounds hypocritical because I once complained about this to do with the Goonies, but it's how much everyone is just shouting all the time. I mean, that is kind of what I like about the Goonies. It is the charm. But they're just... Han and Leia and Luke are just screaming at each other for a lot of the periods of the heist in this film. And I like that bit with the gag where they're screaming with delight when C-3PO shuts off the garbage chute crusher thing, and he thinks they're screaming because they're dying.
I do like
He's
that.
like, they're dying, I couldn't save them.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of shouting and screaming, and it feels like a real... You don't get that much in modern movies. They're all too clean and refined, and everything's well audio.
Yeah, I think one of my favourite things about this film in particular is the relationship between C-3PO and R2-D2.
I do. I think it's the strongest in this film.
Yeah.
I think it's great. That is actually a lot of the best comedy in it. Mm-hmm.
Like, it is like we're sick of each other, yada yada, but then there is like a level of they genuinely do care about each other. Yeah. Which I think is very... Like, I think I heard somewhere that the actors who were like C-3PO and R2-D2 hated each other in real life, right?
Did they?
Yeah. But yeah, I think they're probably my favourite element of New Hope.
I think they are. I think they're a great way to sort of start the film from their perspective. Mm-hmm. And that is one of the things that's so special about these movies and why they work so well. Yeah, I think those elements work better than they did. I felt sorry for C-3PO and Strikes Back. I didn't so much in A New Hope. I think his place in it works a lot better.
Yeah, I don't like really in Empire Strikes Back how he's seen as almost pathetic. Yeah. I think when he is pretty smart and in his own kind of, you know what I mean? Yeah. In his own way, he's pretty smart, and I think like I don't know. It doesn't feel nice. R2
does everything good, really, doesn't he? And C-3PO just complains and gets it wrong. Which is in the first film as well, but it does. I think the balance is a lot better there. I think Mark Hamill's doing a better job in the first film performance-wise.
Yeah, definitely.
It suits him much more, I think, being the young, full of hope, following type character. In the fifth film, he's they call him Commander Luke in the Rebel Forces, and I feel like, would he be a commander? I can kind of see Han Solo being a leader in that way. I don't know if I feel that about Luke yet. I think he should have grown into that more rather than he's just become it by the start of the fifth film. Yeah.
Oh, one thing I really do like about New Hope is the introduction to Han Solo.
Yes, it's a very strong introduction, isn't it?
And like Chewie and...
They've all got that. Leia's quite a good introduction. I like when they get to her in the ship and then she's not just a damsel in distress. She is screaming at them and taking charge and doing things. It's cool.
Yeah, I think she is like... I think a lot of films sometimes like these days struggle to properly figure out how to have a strong female lead. Yeah. Or like strong female characters without making them seem like they have to rely on male characters. Yeah. Whereas I think like Leia kind of is a strong character in their own right. Yeah. And I don't think they make her seem like pathetic or she's just a woman. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I think
I love how tetchy she is, because a lot of the time that when I think of female characters like that, people see it as bratty or annoying or those kind of a whiny is the other word they use, isn't it? But you don't feel like that when she's screaming at people, because they all are. And that's what I love most about these films, because it's great chemistry that way. Mm-hmm. It's become too clean and quippy, I think, nowadays. Yeah. What was your 15?
Oh, my 15 was also A New Hope.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What's 14 then?
My 14 is The Crow. The original.
Mine was Wonka. So not Crow's a lot higher than I put it.
I loved seeing... I saw it when I was younger, and I think I watched it maybe when I was like 12, 13.
Yeah.
So I think at that kind of age, you don't necessarily understand, like, a lot about the movie's kind of premise and, like...
Yeah.
But then, when we saw it again, I loved it a lot.
I do really like the idea of, I can't remember what they call it, that night they have once a year where all the criminals go mad.
Yeah,
Is a cool idea, and how scary that would be for people living there.
I guess it's kind of like The Purge in a way.
Yeah, except it's not authorised, it's just the criminals doing it, and it's quite a horrific idea, really. Mm-hmm. Any reason you would argue it being that high, apart from just the love of it, or...?
I don't know. I think it's a very good film.
Yeah.
I think there's no part of it that I was bored. There's no part of it that I think, like, shouldn't be in the film. I think all the characters you actually genuinely believe the emotion of. I just think in general it is just very well filmed as well.
Yeah.
And I think Brandon Lee's performance is so good.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose that what I'm thinking is, because I think the reason I put it down low is because it's very, very good at what it does, but it's mostly just an action kind of comic book
It is,
film.
but I think the emotion behind it and, like, the general story of...
Yeah, I suppose
like,
that's true.
Loving someone to the point of not being able to rest until...
It does work, that, yeah. I think it hits harder in the first one as well, because he kind of understands who these people are.
Yeah.
As in the remake, he doesn't know what the hell's going on, and we don't really know what's going on either. Mm-hmm. It just kind of happens.
And I really like the story of the original. I think it's very good.
It's very tragic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mine was Wonka, which we already discussed.
Yeah.
13.
Number 13, I put Monkey Man.
Oh, I loved Monkey Man.
Mm-hmm.
Monkey Man was higher for me. I put Dune Part Two.
Okay.
Which should we discuss? I mean, we kind of discussed Dune, I suppose, already, but...
Yeah.
I loved the world of it. It made me really want to read the books. And the reason originally I would have scored this in the top 10, because visually it is just the most powerful thing I think I have seen in cinema. But I think some of the characterization does let it down. And then when you read the books and you realise what's missing and how some of the ideas aren't presented as well, I feel impressed with Denis Villeneuve for how well he's taken a massive book that's... A lot of it's quite badly written in terms of, like, the technicality of it, and worked it into a pretty coherent story, and he's done a very good job with that. But also it does mean you miss out a lot of what I love about the books, and a lot of the meaning, and then as a result it's hard to see it in as positive a light, even though I still love it. And yeah, I mean, I said this to you, in terms of, like, big trilogy type stories, does this mean as much to me as The Lord of the Rings does? No, I don't think it does. Does it mean as much to me as Star Wars does? Probably not either. It's a massive spectacle. I don't think it quite grips your heart in the same way, though.
No.
And it is I think technically, artistically, it's very, very strong, but yeah, it just doesn't quite grab me in the same way.
No.
That's why I put it 13. But Monkey Man...
Going into this, I wasn't really sure what to expect at all.
No?
Like, I didn't really know anything about the story.
No.
And I don't know, I think it is quite a simple premise for a story.
Yeah. I was super excited for this one, though.
Yeah, you were.
Dev Patel's probably my favourite actor.
And isn't it his,
underrated.
Directorial debut as well, this film?
Yeah, and that made me intrigued. I think it's a really strong trailer. And it's not traditionally my kind of film, is it, really? A martial arts film.
It's not mine either, really. But
it's very good world building in it. I say world building, it's technically set, I suppose, in a semi-real India with hints of Modi and the politics of that. But I just think it was really well choreographed, the action, the music fitted perfectly. I was just on board for all of it. I felt the mythic qualities of it added a lot as well.
I think my favourite scene was when, like, heavy metal music's playing.
Yeah.
And there's that fight scene.
Yeah.
That was one of my favourites.
I did not expect for his first directorial film to have so much flair to how it's filmed.
Yeah.
And there is, like, the music choices have worked great with it. There's a lot of camera work, which is just really, really strong for a first-person film. A lot of people found it slow the first hour of this, which I disagree with.
I didn't think that at all.
I mean,
really.
there's a first beat where there's these people he wants to get revenge on, and he goes down, I suppose, the John Wick route, and he gets a gun and he wants to just go in and he wants to kill them.
Yeah.
And it all goes horribly wrong. There's a lot of build up to that and tension of can he do this, and it all goes horribly wrong. And then he has to train and find more meaning beyond just revenge in his life and just anger. And a lot of people didn't like that first beat where he tries and fails, but I really did, and I felt a lot of tension building up to this attempt, where he's formulating this pretty poor plan, really.
Yeah.
I found that really strong.
And I think some of like the fight scenes are like really brutal at parts. Like there's one with the guy, was it like a microwave or something, or...
Oh yeah, there's that knife he's got in his mouth as well that he pushes into someone's throat.
Yeah. So I think some of them are just... Because I kind of like the more like gory kind of films sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think on that level it was very good.
It was very... I mean, that's the one reason my dad, I don't think, would watch this. Because I think my dad would absolutely love this if it wasn't so gory. But he hates any gore, does he? But yeah, I just think it was, a very, very strong film. I mean, this is kind of unfair now, because I criticised you putting The Crow so high for being really, really good, but only at what it tries to do. Monkey Man is another film like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because there isn't huge depth, even though I do like what it hints to and the mythic elements of it, and it's just very artistic in that way.
But I don't think like a film doesn't have to be the best film ever for you to find like meaning within it, or like enjoy the story of it, or like have the story touch you in a certain way. I don't think it has to be the best film. I think as long as you find this thing enjoyable, then that should be enough for you to put it on the list anyway you want.
I much prefer this to John Wick.
I've never seen John Wick.
I've seen the first one, which is a strong film.
Is that Keanu Reeves?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I just think this has more about it, behind it, that it isn't... It's mostly just a martial arts film, but it isn't just that. There is a bit more to this film.
Yeah, I think Dev Patel is amazing in this film.
Yeah. I think that's a fair place to put it, though, but I put it a bit higher. My number 12 was Furiosa.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. I think I'm quite happy with where that's gone.
My number 12 is Trap.
That's very high. That's almost your top 10. I did not expect that. I mean, there are problems with Trap.
There are, but like...
Is it Josh Hartnett?
That's part of it. But I don't know. I think that is one of the films I enjoyed the most.
It was really enjoyable, I think, yeah. It was.
Like, sure, the ending went a bit... But the entire... Like, I think the way Josh Hartnett acts in it makes the entire atmosphere feel unnerving. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, you feel a bit, like, on edge and, like, what is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think makes you... Well, for me anyway, it made me feel a bit, like, panicked in a way. But I kind of enjoyed that. And I kind of enjoyed the not knowing what's going to happen next and, like, kind of trying to see this guy who is so desperate to escape. There was a part in my head where it's like, I know this person has done horrible things, but I kind of did want him to find a way to get out.
I didn't. I wanted his daughter to understand, really. That's the biggest thing let down, that you don't really get much resolution to how his daughter feels.
Yeah, I do like how they kind of show the relationship of him and his daughter, though. I think that is done very well.
I think that's my favourite comedy in this, is how terribly he's trying to get his daughter to, like when there's like that opening in a stage you can escape down. He's like, let's go, it'll be really cool to see what it's... And she's like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Just like, you're acting really weird as a father, can you please stop?
Yeah.
I enjoyed that a lot.
Like, she's kind of like what the audience is thinking.
Yeah. It's fun, that. It is a really fun film. I scored it a lot lower than that, though, yeah. But Furiosa was my 12, which we have talked about. I think I'm happy with it there, just outside the top 10.
Yeah, of course. I think it's a very strong film.
My number 11, which I'm now feeling maybe I did put a bit too high, because I love Dev Patel, is Monkey Man.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be in my top 10, but I couldn't quite get there. What's your 11?
Fall Guy.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's. I mean, Trap and Fall Guy, very different to my placings then. Both of them are in the 20s, I think, for me. Are there any flaws you'd say about the Fall Guy?
I can't think of any.
I think the pacing in some places...
See, I personally don't feel like that. I think for me, everything kind of worked. So yeah, I remember, like, we were kind of somewhat in talks of like talking about like what our top 10 favourite movies were like a couple of months ago, and I had Fall Guy at like number 2. So it's a bit different, but like I think like upon seeing other films and like other ones that I would like rate higher and stuff, I do think this is a strong film. It isn't usually a film that I would usually enjoy so much, I don't think.
It's a very good comedy, I think, yeah.
Because I'm kind of a bit funny about comedies even sometimes, because I don't think like a lot of comedies these days.
You don't get many great comedy movies anymore, do you? It's mostly just TV, and even that's becoming harder.
Yeah, and I don't find like a lot of the comedy in films these days is comedy that I find funny.
Yeah.
Because most of my kind of, like the comedies I kind of like are like old British comedies. So I find like a lot of like the American humour doesn't necessarily reach me as a person. But I think this film is done on more of like a relatable kind of level, or like a...
Stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if there's one bit I don't like, it's how long the montage goes on with the Taylor Swift music. And maybe that's because I find that song annoying.
Well, I mean, the song is like 14 minutes long or something.
Is it? 14 minutes of that?
Maybe 10.
10 minutes of that? Does it change, or is it...
I don't know if they saw it, but like she released like a big thing and it's like a whole like film and song, and I think it is like 10, 14 minutes long.
Alright.
So be thankful that they cut it down a bit.
Okay.
Top 10.
Yes. Now we're into the big numbers. Alright, what's your top 10? What's your number 10 even?
My number 10 is Beetlejuice.
Oh yeah, I forgot you hadn't said that yet. Yeah, do you prefer it to the first film, or...?
As a film, yes. I think I have a lot of nostalgia for the first one because it was my granddad's favourite film, and I watched it a lot as a kid with my granddad, because anytime like my grandparents would look after me, we'd watch a couple of films and whatnot. It's like me and my brother would pick one, and then my grandparents would pick one from like a selection that was like appropriate obviously for like kids. And my granddad always wanted to watch Beetlejuice. He found it hilarious. So I don't know, like I think as a film the second one is better, but I think for my own personal reasons I would say.
Well, I think the first one's a lot tighter and there's a story. Mm-hmm. I think something I really appreciate about both the films, but I kind of noticed it more this time with the second one, is how sudden characters will just die.
Yeah.
Like I really like it happens at the start of the first one, doesn't it? When they just drive and crash and it's like, oh, they're dead. Mm-hmm. And this film as well, there's a character that dies in a really stupid way that just suddenly happens. And I like having that about death in these films. Like that's kind of the comedy of it, the kind of dark humour. Mm-hmm. But that's also quite realistic, really, that people can just suddenly die.
Yeah.
You don't really see that much in films. Normally there's a big drama to it, and it's always the most meaningful death in the world. But that's cool. So yeah, I could see that being top 10. My number 10 was Blink Twice. Oh, you're sad you put that a lot higher.
I did put it a lot higher,
yeah. I mean, Blink Twice was one of the ones, again, where I thought it looked very generic from the trailer. I didn't think it was going to be anything special. We almost didn't see it.
I also have, like, a thing, like, where in the past anyways, I'll say, I have never thought Channing Tatum to be a good actor. So kind of having him as, like, a lead role in this kind of movie, I was a bit like, I don't know what to expect. And I don't think the trailer gave a lot away.
Yeah.
But I love this film.
Yeah, I do. I mean, having said that, the trailer didn't give it away. I think going into this film...
You kind of knew what to expect, but I don't think you knew what to expect to the level of what the film is.
No, once you see it, it makes sense. But, I mean, in that sense, there isn't, like... There's not a really big, surprising twist in this film. And that maybe could disappoint people, but I don't care. I think some of the tension is kind of...
I think there are, like, not twists, but there are little, like, surprising kind of factors to it.
Yeah. But I don't think it misses a big twist, is what I mean.
No.
I think it makes sense what it builds to. As another directorial debut.
Zoe Kravitz?
Yeah. And again, you wouldn't tell this was the first film with how much flair there is put into how this is made. Some of it is brilliantly shot, I think.
Visually, I think it is amazing.
Yeah, some of the transitions as well, the comedy, not an easy thing to do on a first go.
I think especially, like, when this film also touches upon, like, a very, like, serious topics.
Yeah.
And I think having that mixed with comedy could take away sometimes, like, in other films, potentially could take away from, like how horrific these things are. But I think it was done in a way that is like respectful to that and like not
Yeah. Well, not gratuitous.
not turning this specific thing into a joke.
No. I mean, I think, there are scenes in this that could be quite triggering. They're quite quick, but they are very powerful, those scenes.
And I think
Not gratuitous at all.
they aren't filmed in a way of exploitation to like the characters.
Yeah.
They're filmed in a way of showing how bad it is, but also not... It feels like a not victimising the characters more kind of thing.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very dark film in a lot of ways, and it should be that. And that, it is hard to get that balance right with the comedy. Because that is kind of... And there's then a lot of comedy after this reveal.
Yeah.
Where there's these characters having to pretend they don't know this stuff. And that's really, really horrible. But it also is good comedy at the same time. And it's really hard to get that balance right. It does a great job with that. That's probably the thing I most appreciate about this film.
I think all the acting was very good.
I do.
I think especially... I cannot remember the names of some of the girls.
No.
But the main woman... And there's another girl who comes across in the film initially as being like very...
That's
like,
quite a nice
stuck
twist.
up and a bit annoying and...
And then she's not.
Yeah.
I really like the way that's done and how isolated they all feel from each other to begin with, and then they're not. And actually, as well, there's the girl she's friends with at the start. I think they have a really good chemistry.
Yeah.
That's one of those things that's really hard to do, I think, at the start of the film. Just have two friends deliver chemistry where it feels like they're good friends.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can be so stilted, but I don't think it is.
And one thing I do like about this film is, like, I think it kind of touches upon, like, how these days, I think girls in general are kind of taught that they should see other girls as, like, competition.
Yeah.
And they should see other girls as, like, well, why can't I look like this person? Or why aren't I this person?
Yeah.
And people are made to think, like, things like that. Whereas I think in this, it's like girls coming together to
That's
help
kind of part of the twist there, isn't
and
it?
support each other.
How they feel like competition at first, and then realise that's kind of what's isolating them.
And I think it touches upon like the kind of real world issues as well as...
Yeah, you can't really say what without spoiling it, though, can
No.
you? I can't think of any flaws to this film, really. I think it was really, really strong. I think it could be triggering for a lot of people. I think I would warn you about that before you watch it.
Yeah.
But very well made, very dark, very funny, very moving. I think maybe the criticism would be the whole snake poison and how slightly magical that feels. It doesn't quite...
Yeah, but I don't think it takes away from any of it at all.
No. The ending also I'm torn on.
I kind of like it.
I think I do. I don't think it feels as... I don't think it's meant to feel fully empowering, because that's quite dark in itself. That's how she finishes. And I don't know, I'm not sure if I root for it or not, and I quite enjoy the ambiguity there.
I kind of do in a way, I think.
Do you?
But yeah.
Yeah. I'm fully on board for more films where billionaires aren't presented as amazing people as well.
Yeah.
Right. That was my number 10. Yours was Beetlejuice. What is your number 9? I don't think you're going to be happy with mine.
My number 9 is Forrest Gump.
Oh, I wondered if you'd put... I'm surprised you put it as high as 9, actually. I wasn't sure if you enjoyed it.
I loved Forrest Gump.
Okay.
I thought it was very good.
I love Forrest Gump. I think it's a very simple idea for a movie, but it's just very well done. And it made me cry a lot when we saw it again in cinema.
Well, I'd never seen Forrest Gump before. And I think like all like the memes of it had kind of maybe put me off over the years.
I worried I'd built it up as well too much.
No, I think from how people kind of talk about the film, I was almost under the impression that they were painting Forrest Gump out to be like this stupid kind of guy.
Yeah.
When I don't think they do at all.
No. I think it's a really difficult line to tread, that, because they do kind of have comedy out of some stupid things he does.
Yeah, but then he's also doing like amazing things.
This film could very easily be let's laugh at someone stupid, but I don't think it is.
No.
I think I really enjoy about this is that his relationship with Jenny isn't necessarily positive.
I really disliked Jenny as a character.
Did you?
I found her horrible.
Yeah?
Yeah. I understand like, her whole background, and I understand all that stuff, and I think that is obviously heartbreaking. But then I think how she treats Forrest is horrible.
It is for him, yeah. I think he gets used in a lot of ways. But that's also what I enjoy about this film, because it feels like it's really complicated for Jenny to work through, and I like that she's not presented in a perfect light as a result.
Yeah,
I think if this film had made their relationship like super romantic and super perfect, and it was all rosy and sentimental, I don't think I would like this film anywhere near as much.
I just kind of don't like how she is one of the people who treats him like he is stupid.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, I don't think she often appreciates him.
And it almost feels like she only turns to him when she needs help, not because she genuinely loves him. Yeah.
At the same time, I don't think we can necessarily expect her to love him. Like,
no, but then I think, like, if you are, like,
having a child with him that you don't tell him about for a year.
Presenting yourself as, like, someone, and she does tell him she loves him. I mean, she marries him.
Yeah.
It's like, and she only marries him when she's dying.
Yeah.
I think there is, like, something of, like, I don't know, almost cruel element to her character.
I don't know, I see it as cruel. I think I see her as lost and desperate.
I guess, but then you are also playing upon the emotions of someone else.
Yes, it's not nice
someone
at all.
Who you know is in...
I do feel very sorry for Forrest.
Someone that you know is in love with you to that extent.
I know.
And you're almost using them.
It is...
I think's not very nice.
It is tragic, a lot of it. But I think my favourite bit in the film as well, though, is it's just the contrast between their two lives. And there's that bit where I can't remember what Forrest is doing at the time, and then it cuts to her and she's standing on the edge of that balcony considering jumping off.
Yeah.
I find that powerful. I find it really powerful when she goes back to her house and she's just throwing rocks at it and screaming. And
yeah, that is sad.
And I like how many real assassinations are in this film. It's quite shocking when you see it and you're like, oh my god, did people get assassinated this much in America?
Well, I mean, 2 people have tried with Donald Trump already, haven't they?
It's insane. I can't think of any. I mean, there was that British politician that got stabbed, wasn't there, under Brexit recently?
Yeah.
I can't remember what she's called now. That's all I can think of, though. It's quite shocking when you realise...
I think that is one part of the film that I think is, like...
Are you going to say how he's edited into the John Lennon scene?
And... well, no, like, all of them, like the mouth movement and stuff of, like, the kind of fate scenarios, I think doesn't work.
It doesn't stand up to today, no.
I think it's still, like, it doesn't take away from anything, though, because I think it is fun.
Yeah. You got Forrest Gump into your top 10, so I can't complain. Yeah. And Tom Hanks is very good in the part. Mm-hmm. You can see why it's become such a meme, like, that role, because it feels... You could easily meme on it, I think. Yeah.
I think it's a very sad film as well, though.
It is.
Like, was it Lieutenant Dan?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Lieutenant Dan. That makes me cry.
And
a lot of this film makes me... Yeah. Everything in this film makes me cry.
Yeah.
I can't think of a film that makes me cry as much, actually. Unlike If, I feel like the tears are earned rather than manufactured.
Yeah, because I don't think it feels like a cheap attempt at...
No.
Making people feel sad.
Oh, my number 9. Mm-hmm. It's Coraline.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I have Coraline at 7.
Oh, okay.
So mine's not a lot higher.
I thought yours might be like a top 3 for Coraline. I mean, I love Coraline. It's probably my favourite stop-motion animation film. Mm-hmm. I did really love Pinocchio recently, though, to be said. And obviously Wallace and Gromit.
Mm-hmm. I think, in general...
Oh, and Chicken Run.
Yeah. In general, Coraline is probably in my top 10 favourite films ever made. But I am judging... on this list purely because we saw it in 3D.
Yeah.
So I'm judging it purely based on.
Okay.
Seeing
the 3D
it in
didn't
the
work
cinemas.
for me because I wear glasses and it didn't putting them on top of my glasses. It didn't quite work. It didn't seem to line up for me.
I don't think it was that great in general, apart from like scenes that involve like the mice or
yeah, that worked
when they're sat at like tables because you could feel like the perspective.
Yeah.
But I don't think it really worked.
It's not an obvious choice for 3D. I don't think Coraline, but
I don't think it was needed.
Wonderfully animated film. My favourite Henry Selick film, I think. I think the voice acting performances are very good. I think actually, especially Wybie, who's so sort of that you feel the anxiety and the nervousness about his character.
I love
Coraline as well. Is it?
It's Dakota Fanning.
Yep,
Who we touched upon earlier.
She's very good. How tetchy and angry she is, again in a way where she's not seen as whiny or I mean, well, probably people do see her that way, but I love that about her character, because that is how a child is.
Yeah, she's just a kid.
Yeah. So all strong performances there. It is beautiful animation.
Dawn French and Jennifer Saunders.
Yeah, they are the obvious castings.
I cannot think of anyone better for them roles.
And it's a lot of fun. I think the reason I put it 9 is because I think I do have a few problems with the film. I think there are moments that are slightly rushed when she's collecting all the orbs. I think they could have had more tension with that, but...
I do agree with that.
I think most stop-motion films have bits that are a bit rushed, probably because it's so expensive to make. And I think I tried to explain this in a video recently about YB, and I think people misunderstood it. I was saying that she has the big build-up, the climax, where she fights the other mother and she's a spider and she gets away. And then after that, there's a bit where, oh no, the hand's still gotten out, you've got to throw away the key.
Yeah.
And that, after this big climax, like, although it makes sense to have this bit after it, and it makes sense she's still afraid, but it then feels slightly tacked on, because you've already had the big moment.
Yeah, I
and then there's another moment that's more little. But almost flawless, I think.
Yeah, I think it's such a good film.
Weirdly cosy, considering how horrible it also is.
Yeah, like, it touches upon, like, some quite dark things. And, like, for what is considered, like, a kid's movie, I think it is very dark.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I saw this as a kid, it would have scared the hell out of me.
Yeah.
I didn't see it until about 3 years ago.
Oh, really? I think I saw it when I was quite young.
You saw a lot of horror movies.
But then, like, when I was a kid, my kind of comfort was horror movies. And I do like things, like, a bit spooky. And since I was very, very little, I've been obsessed with, like, Nightmare Before Christmas and things like that.
Yeah. Do you prefer Nightmare Before Christmas or Coraline?
Coraline.
I do as well.
Yeah.
Number 8?
My number 8 is Inside Out 2.
Mine is Wicked Little Letters.
Okay.
Inside Out 2, it makes sense, I think, there. I loved that movie. Did you prefer that or the first one?
It's tough, because the first one I think I preferred as a general story.
Yeah.
But I think the second one touched me more than the first one did.
I think so as well. I think the first one's a tighter story. I think the second one does have problems with it, and it is a bit messy.
Yeah.
But I also find it a lot more moving. And I think I'd prefer the second one, to be honest.
I think I do, yeah.
Anxiety is a difficult emotion to deal with in a film as well, and I think they do a really good job of it.
Especially in a kids' film as well.
Yeah. It is great how those films do take such complex ideas and just present them in a story that a kid can understand.
Yeah.
It's great.
And I do kind of like films that are predominantly kids' films that touch upon very serious kind of subjects through kind of these characters. Because I think it will help these kids who are watching it when they're growing up to understand that feeling this way is normal.
Yeah.
And it's okay to feel anxious, but then you can also feel joy and sadness and...
Yeah. I think a lot of times people feel anxious and then worry that there's something wrong with them, and that makes them more anxious because I've got to get rid of this thing. Or I've got to overrule these bad thoughts.
When being anxious isn't who you are as a person, it's a small...
I mean, anxiety disorder is a thing, but also anxiety itself is an ordinary emotion.
Yeah. I'm not speculating on like how people who have like the actual disorders are feeling. It's more so like but I mean, people do forget that. I think whenever any idea of the word anxiety, people do get anxious about the word and the idea of it, and like, oh my god, is there something wrong with my child? Is there something wrong with me if I'm feeling at all anxious about anything? And then they panic, and that makes it worse. So yeah, I think it's great for that. Yeah, but then like anxiety can show in lots of ways. Anxiety is even, I guess, very similar to just being nervous for something.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. Yeah,
things like that.
I think they tend to say it can be presented quite differently between boys and girls as well, which is quite an interesting thought. But yeah, all right. What problems would you say there are with this film? I think it misses Bill Hader. I'll say that much.
Yes.
I think it is quite chaotic again. Not as chaotic as Beetlejuice, but... I
think some of the new emotions, especially envy, I don't think needs to be there.
No, I don't think envy or embarrassment, or even ennui, really got that much to do.
I loved embarrassment, though.
Yeah, and I liked ennui.
Ennui had some really good lines.
Yeah, But they didn't really do much in the story. It was only anxiety, really, that
Also,
did.
best new character, nostalgia.
Yeah, I like nostalgia popping up.
It was really good.
I think some of the ending, like the bit with the whirlwind, is great. But I think after that, I think it works and makes sense. But I think I can see why people would get confused about the tree of self thing and, you know, tearing that down and rebuilding a new one and then including all the bad emotions as well. And
that bit makes me really sad.
I do, yeah.
And I especially get sad when they're like hugging the tree.
Yeah. I think that's a bit in general though where they could have explained some of that a little more clearer for children.
Yeah, like it's okay to feel all emotions.
Yeah. I don't think there's much wrong with it. I mean, there are things wrong with it, but it's so strong in what it is and so moving, and that it does deserve a top 10 spot. Yours was 8, was it?
Yes.
I scored it 7, so pretty similar. My 8 was Wicked Little Letters, which I don't think a lot of people would have seen, probably outside of Britain. Mm-hmm. Starring Olivia Colman.
And Jessie...
Not Plemons.
Something or other, right?
I can't remember her name.
I can't remember her name.
Real life story about a woman in the, I think, 1930s, maybe it might have been 20s, who started living in a, you know, your happy, quaint, cosy British village. But then suddenly she started getting these anonymous letters with all sorts of foul language on. Like, just stupidly, because it's like swearing, but in a way that's not quite how people swear, which is what makes it so funny.
Yeah, it's like you would be offended by this thing if it wasn't just so ridiculous.
It's like really foul-mouthed, but really weird in how they're written as well, like the phrasings of it, which is a lot of the comedy. And it's where are these letters coming from and how, like, up in arms the little community gets about it, because it's so out of place in such an old world Britain to be so foul. And courts get involved, and it's a really interesting true story, and very true as well. I think a lot of it is incredibly accurate. Such a niche idea for a film, but so fun, surprisingly quite touching. Mm-hmm. And Olivia Colman is just brilliant in it.
Yeah, she's so good.
I could have easily ranked this one higher. I think first when I thought we were making this list, I thought this could make my top 3 because it's just perfect in what it is. I can't fault this film. I can't fault many of the films in the top 10, really. I think the reason it isn't higher is probably just because the other ones I prefer. I think that's it now.
Yeah. I think, like, we can safely say our top 10s are all really good films.
Yeah.
And I think now it is just based on movie preference instead of how good the film is.
Yeah. I would highly recommend it, though, if you haven't heard of it. Wicked Little Letters.
It's so good. Going in, like, I had no idea what to expect, like, because the general premise kind of seems a bit like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it's
a very
so
niche
good.
premise.
So good.
Yeah. Another creative film. What was your 8? You said it, didn't you?
I said Inside Out.
What was your 7?
My 7 was Coraline.
Ah, yes. And my 7 was Inside Out 2, so we've kind of done that. What's your number 6?
My number 6 was Wicked Little Letters.
Was it?
Yeah.
Mine... Oh, you haven't mentioned this one yet. Yours must be quite high, then. My 6 is Speak No Evil.
Yeah.
Which we saw yesterday?
My number 5 is Speak No Evil.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we saw this yesterday. Mm-hmm. And I think I said, as I left the film, this is my favourite horror film I've ever seen.
Yeah. So
I haven't seen many. I'm not a horror person, but I absolutely love this one.
I'm, like, quite big into horror movies. And I don't know, this film just kind of had me feeling uncomfortable the entire time.
God, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I was so, like, my hands kept going.
Like, it's almost like something bad's going to happen and you're not sure when. So it kind of leaves you feeling, like, very uncomfortable. And, like, I think James McAvoy in this is just so good.
He is. He's really, really good.
And I think, like, his, like, the way his character is acting is just really uncomfortable.
It is. That's what's so fun about it as well, because it's like, I suppose that's a lot of the conflict of this person they've met and seem nice at first, but they keep slightly doing odd things, and it's that kind of polite thing of, oh, how much do I politely ignore this? How much should I be setting boundaries here, or how much should I be scared? Where does this lead? Mm-hmm. And it just gets more and more uncomfortable and kind of manipulated into going along with things. And I find that really fun. And
it's there are like a lot of like quite funny parts and things like that.
It is funny.
But then there are a lot of like very touching and sad, and
there was that reveal in the middle of the film that really quite hit me like a chair in the chest. I don't know why I said a chair in the chest. But yeah, it was very moving. Very, very dark, and not in a way I expected it to be, actually. I wasn't sure what this was going to.
I wasn't sure where it was going to go, and I think that's the, like...
Yeah, you know something bad.
I kind of thought this film was going to go down a supernatural kind of route.
Yeah.
At some points, and I was very thankful it didn't.
I was as well. It's a very specific kind of horror when it gets to it.
Oh, something that you kind of also liked was the fact that in a lot of, like, horror movies and stuff, the characters just, the minute that bad shit starts to happen... they know how to fight.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, like, it is all a bit, like, clunky and...
Yeah, they make decisions that are stupid, but in a panicked moment, it's what they think is a good idea.
Yeah.
And I like the bit with the dad when he's trying to find a weapon to fight with, and then he's got this hammer. And the way he just walks about with his hammer, it's like it's the most alien thing in the world to him. Like, he doesn't know how to hold it. And I just find that so kind of... I really like seeing that in a film.
Yeah.
That's kind of.
I think he was my favourite character, to be fair, the dad.
He probably was mine. I mean, that's what I also really loved about this film. How much it starts out with, like, him being jealous of James McAvoy. And because this is a couple who are quite, I think, uptight and restricted, and they have the right way of doing things, and they're very anxious. And then he sees this James McAvoy on holiday just doing flips into a pool and just being very extroverted and forward, and it's like, oh, I wish I could be like that kind of thing. And then you get to what that actually is,
and you're like, no, I don't want to be like this person at all.
And sometimes as though it can be definitely exploited, there is a reason people are polite or anxious to cause a fuss or those sort of things. And I like that about this.
Yeah, me too.
It's just I've never felt so tense, I think, in a film. Even when you kind of know what's going to happen, just getting to it. And then very moving when you find out. And a really solid end. I think the end makes sense.
Yes, I think the end is very good.
Yeah. And there's a moment where a boy screams repeatedly as well, which feels like a good bit for his character.
I think the bit that got me, like, it made me want to cry, was they do, like, a close-up of this boy's face, and he's just, like, got a tear coming down his face, and it's just very sad.
It is really, really sad. Also sets mostly in Devon.
Oh, yeah, like, the views and the general, like, feel of it is stunning.
Devon's not quite Cornwall, but it's still beautiful. Very similar to Cornwall.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was my number 6.
And my number 5.
My number 5 was Forrest Gump.
Okay.
Got my top 5. So what was your number 4?
Right, this is when I start...
There's 3 films I know you haven't had on your list yet. I don't know what the other one is.
This is when I start to, like, not know what to do.
Okay.
Because, like, it feels criminal putting this film where I've put it.
Right.
But I put Shaun of the Dead at 4.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I didn't expect that. That's surprising. I
think, like, we are judging this on, like, films that we've seen in the cinema.
Yeah.
And I guess the cinema experience of seeing it and things like that. And I adore Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead is my favourite of the Cornetto trilogy by far. And I think the Cornetto trilogy are in my, like, top films ever made.
Me too.
But I think the thing is, I've seen Shaun of the Dead so many times.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so you mean when you see it in a cinema, it's then
it
not
doesn't
special?
feel as a special occasion.
Okay.
Whereas if we would just talk about, our favourite films on this list, like, Shaun of the Dead is up there.
No, I can see that.
But yeah, I think some of the others maybe hit me more because of the experience. And
yeah, I get that. I mean, I think... Well, I hope people probably know what Shaun of the Dead is. I think it's becoming a lot bigger in America and outside of the UK, those films. Have become cult classics. Edgar Wright, a trilogy of comedies starring Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. Shaun of the Dead are kind of a zombie comedy thing, parody of Dawn of the Dead. This was only
last night when we went as well to see it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I had the best time, I think.
I can't think of any comedy films stronger than the Cornetto trilogy.
If we talk about, like, Shaun of the Dead specific compared to, like, other, I think there's a British...
Oh, you're going to say Attack the Block?
No, well, I adore Attack the Block as well, but I'm also going to say Dog Soldiers.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I think that is an equally well done kind of British horror comedy. But watching Shaun of the Dead, I think I cannot point out anything that is wrong with that film.
I don't think there is anything wrong.
It is the perfect film.
And watching it in a cinema as well, there's a bit of me that just sits back kind of in awe at how well edited and directed the whole thing is. Like, just so smooth the way, not just the transitions and like the sort of flair of that, but story narrative wise, how well everything just flows into each other.
Yeah, I think like as
it's
well
just
as like
seamless.
What do you call it? Like when they show something early on in a film and then it kind of happens later on.
Yeah, like a sort of
like
parallel.
A callback.
Yeah.
Like something like that. Like how often they do that in them films.
Yeah.
And it's done in like such a subtle way.
They're just so brilliantly tightly written, all of them.
And the cast in that film is perfect.
Yeah. I cannot think of any things to fault about it. And it's almost so good it becomes difficult to like pick apart why.
Yeah.
And it all just comes together perfectly. It's just Shaun of the Dead is one of the best films I can think of.
Yes.
And surprisingly moving and surprisingly relatable. That sort of period in life, what they're in their late 20s, where they feel like they're stuck in their life and they don't know where it's going. And every day's been going down a pub. Not that people can afford to do that anymore in real life, and I love that about the films, how much they are very British and there is a pub culture feel to them.
Yeah, I think there is like a very British response to a lot of the things that happen as well. Like the mum is just kind of stereotypical British mum.
Yeah, well, not wanting to call the police to call the fuss.
Yeah.
Wanting to make sandwiches for everything.
Just putting like a wet cloth on like a wound and you'll be fine.
It's all right, Barbara. I've run it under a cold tap.
Yeah, things like that. And I think, I don't know, I think when watching it, I do find the characters quite relatable.
Yeah.
All for different reasons, obviously. And I do kind of just want to go to the pub with Ed and Shaun.
Yeah, I do. Ed is so fun in that film.
Yeah.
And just so real, because you do know people exactly like that.
I also love Dylan Moran so much as a comedian.
Yeah.
I think when I was younger, I really hated his character. But then as I've gotten older and stuff, I kind of grow more and more fond of his character the more times I watch it.
Yeah, I mean, he's the one who plays the bit of a dick character, but he does it very well, and I can also relate to it somewhat.
Yeah.
I get where he's coming from in some levels, even if he is being a twat about it. All right, that was your 4. Mine was the Iron Claw.
Okay.
Which we saw for a second time recently on TV.
Yeah, we watched it with your parents.
Yeah, and it's another film it's hard to fault. I'm surprised my parents said after they watched it, they thought it was quite slow to begin with and they wanted to see more.
Yeah, but your dad did come back to us the next day and say, like, he was thinking about it all night and...
Yeah, it is one of those films you do think about. I think as a therapist, it would speak to me as a film because it's exploring a lot of family dynamics. I mean, that is what it's about, really, family dynamics and the need to feel invulnerable and how vulnerable that actually makes you.
Yeah.
Which is it's just really, well, it's a perfect true story for that kind of idea. And this is one where it is a true story, but the film is very much exploring something. If you don't know, it's a story about the wrestler families, the Von Erichs. And you're big into wrestling. I don't really know anything about them. I'd never heard of them.
Yeah.
It's a very tragic, true story of their life, really, with a somewhat happy ending. But yeah, it's a very tragic story, and it does hit you a lot. It made me cry a lot.
Yeah. I think, is it old enough now for us to talk about?
Spoilers.
Yeah. I think potentially.
I don't know, because I don't think it's one a lot of people would have seen.
Okay. I can't really talk about my favourite scene then without giving away too much.
It's hard to talk about this film in general without giving it away, but not that it's a twist exactly, but I think...
I guess I could talk about it, like, my favourite scene in a way of... So, I do find, like, the thought of, like, the whole Spiritfarer, like, guide to the death thing kind of really interesting and kind of moving in general.
Yeah.
And there is a bit in this film where they kind of touch upon, like, your journey to...
Afterlife.
Yeah. And that bit makes me really, really sad.
There is a lot in this film that makes me really, really sad.
I think you just feel sad for the characters because they deserved better than they got.
It's such a real family situation, though. I think that's what gets me. Because it's such a thing you can get stuck in, and there's a mindset there that it's hard to break out of.
Yeah.
And almost breaking out of it at first probably feels like it is worse or you are weaker. And it is really tragic in that way. It's great movie. Mm-hmm. What was your number 4?
I put Shaun of the Dead.
Yes, you did. What was your number 3?
My number 3 was Two Towers.
So was mine. I wondered if you'd put it first. God, I don't know what's left on yours then. I don't know what the other two are. I've got no idea.
I adore Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely up there with my favourite movies ever made. I especially think the extended editions, which is what we saw in cinemas.
Well, just we didn't. They're showing 3 on a row, weren't they? It was one night was Fellowship. But I can't remember why we couldn't go.
We were looking after the dogs or something, and dog sitting, and we couldn't go.
The next day, it was the day of one of the England matches in the Euros, and I decided I wanted to see Lord of the Rings instead. Yeah,
so we went to see the Two Towers extended.
I think the next day I had work or something, didn't I? Yeah, so we only saw the Two Towers.
Yeah. And I don't know, I think the Two Towers, if we're talking about the extended editions, the Two Towers will always be my favourite. I think there are a lot of scenes in it which I think do and don't work, but I think...
There's a lot of comedy scenes, which I'm glad they cut.
I'm glad they cut, like, there's scenes with Merry and Pippin being, like looking at how, like, tall they are and things like that. I don't think they necessarily work, but I think seeing something like Lord of the Rings in the cinema is just... I don't know, it's a masterpiece, really.
Yeah, I think it is.
And it's hard to talk about it, really.
I mean, a lot of people, I think, book fans dislike this one because of how much it changes Faramir. But I really like it, and I think it suits for what this movie... It's got to have a structure in itself.
I do think that, like,
need that.
The extended edition does give more character to Faramir.
Yeah, it does.
Because, like, I think if you're watching the theatricals of Two Towers, Faramir does come across as very unlikable. And just kind of not very nice. When I think, like, you get the backstory about how Denethor always compares him to his brother, like, even says about wishing his brother had lived over him. I think that's all super heartbreaking, and you can kind of maybe understand that this is just a guy who wants his dad's approval, finally.
And obviously just the power of the ring does affect men. It did affect Boromir before. But I think he needs to play the role he does. I think it makes so much more tragedy for Gollum in this film. And I actually think that's what's strongest about this film, is this tragedy of, can Gollum change and be helped, and Frodo trying that and wanting to see good here, or is it past that? And it is tragic how Gollum ends this film. And I actually think that's what I love about this film most, how it ends, because, I mean, we said about Empire Strikes Back, and that's a film that ends kind of with the baddies on top. Yeah. In a way, so is Two Towers, and I just think it's really well done, and I love the way it ends with that shot of Mordor, and then it starts playing that song that's about Gollum, and it's just a perfect way to end that film. That's not how the book ends, but I love it. This clear story of Gollum, and finishing with the decision to trick Frodo and send him to Shelob, and that's what's going to happen next.
I find the scene with Gollum playing almost in the water,
it makes me so sad that it's such. I mean, I think that's part of why it's easy to dislike Faramir, because you just wish that didn't happen to Gollum there.
Yeah.
Could it have been different if that didn't happen? I don't know. But that's kind of what the books are about, even the struggle between good and evil. Mm-hmm. And I think making that main tension of Gollum kind of the heart of the second movie is perfect for that.
Yeah, because I think he could easily be seen as a villain in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
When I don't think he is.
I don't.
I think he's just someone who's been... I don't know.
It's just tragic, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, well, the ring's the villain, I suppose you'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think Sauron gets much empathy.
No.
But he is the embodiment of evil, I guess. Like, we both put that third, then. Mm-hmm. Is it your, like, non-extended? I mean, we saw it extended, but non-extended, would it be your favourite as well?
My favourite Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
No, my favourite would be Fellowship, probably.
Probably mine as well. I don't know. It changes every time I think about it.
Return of the King has some scenes that I think are the best in the entire trilogy. Like, I think the For Frodo bits and...
You bow to no one.
Yeah. Things like that, I think. So yeah, I don't know.
What's your number 2 then? Because I've got no idea
My
what
number
else
2 is
left.
Iron Claw.
Oh, of course, yeah. I haven't said Iron Claw yet. I said Fight Club. Because I do love Fight Club a lot. And I think it is. I think both of those films are pretty flawless. I think Fight Club is more flawless than Iron Claw, though, I think. I think it's David Fincher's best movie. I don't know who directed Iron Claw, do you?
No, but I think for me, Iron Claw is the kind of story that I enjoy more.
I mean, I wondered
And I
if
think-
it might make top 3 on mine. It only just missed out.
And then that's one, like, a film that moved me a lot. And yeah, I don't know, you just kind of really feel for the people. Whereas in Fight Club, I don't think I felt for any of them, apart from Helena Bonham Carter's character.
Yeah.
And maybe like people like Bob and...
I suppose that's true about the film. You don't have a deep connection in that
No.
way.
And I think with Iron Claw, like, I think you truly do care about the characters. And I think knowing the fact that it's a true story
Yeah.
adds that element of, like, heartbreak to it.
Okay. We're down to number 1. I think I know what yours is. I don't know if anyone listening has figured out what they are.
Probably.
Do you know what mine is? I'm going to guess yours is Blink Twice.
It is Blink Twice, yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense, I think. Yeah. I mean, part of why I love that one so much as well is because it was such a pleasant surprise that it wasn't shit.
Yeah.
Because the trailer really did not do it justice.
I think there's that for me. I think, like, I wasn't expecting anything great. So when we'd watched it and it was just very good, I was, like, surprised. But I also do like the element of touching upon, like, real world issues through something that, I don't know, there is comedy as well, and it is
Yeah.
just, I think it's, yeah, very nice. I think we touched upon
Yeah.
a lot of the reasons why earlier on. But
My number 1 is Shaun of the Dead.
yeah.
And I think I'm not a big person for rewatching films too many times. Like, when I think about other films I've watched loads, for example, Good Will Hunting, The Breakfast Club, Spirited Away, Dead Poets Society, all really good films.
And they're all ones, though, that you've had, like, watched for, like, YouTube and
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, that's probably part of why I've watched them so much.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
those are ones I've watched so many times that I don't think they would make my, like, top 10 of all time anymore. Maybe they would. Maybe some of them would.
Maybe we
but-
should do a video at some point of our top 10 of all time films.
Yeah, but I think Shaun of the Dead, I've seen it far more than I've seen them, and yet it's still one of my favourites. I'm still always engaged to watch it. I don't think I'm not someone who does like rewatching films much, but I could watch any of the Connected trilogy endless amounts of times, and probably Fight Club as well, to be honest. But more so Shaun of the Dead.
Plus, one of our first ever dates was getting drunk and watching the Cornetto trilogy.
Yes, I could never get bored watching them.
Nope.
I'd never not notice something else.
Yeah, I think you do learn at least realise something new each time you watch them.
Yeah. I would happily just break down the films for how they work on a story level as well, because I just think they're great. I can't think of any higher praise I'd give a film than.
No, it is the perfect film.
Yep. And that's my top, and that's your top, and our lists are quite different, really. I was surprised by some of yours. There were a lot were almost
What
the same.
did you
but,
think that I would have higher? Good little letters.
Yeah, I thought you'd have that higher.
Yeah.
I was surprised Dune was as low as you put it. I'm surprised Trap was as high as you put it. I thought you'd have Wonka higher, actually, remembering how much you did love it. But I get
did,
that.
but then I think the kind of film it is
Yeah.
hasn't left an impact on me as much as some of the others have.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true. Let us know what you think. I imagine most of you don't like Deadpool versus Wolverine last. Are there other ones you're very confused by? I mean, we've tried our best to set out our reasons, but obviously, if we tried to explain every reasoning, we'd be here.
Yeah.
We've been talking 4.5 hours almost, and like if we did more explaining, it would be forever. So hopefully our reasons do make sense, but I don't know if they were all perfectly explained. My voice is going completely. My throat feels so dry.
Or if they're, you should just tell us, if there's any films on the list that we've ranked in places that you don't like. Why do you like these films so much?
Yep.
Because I'm intrigued to see other people's opinions on films and, how they differ from our own.
Yeah. What's your top 5? What's your bottom 5?
Yeah. Also, if there's films on this list that we haven't added and we haven't seen, what other films from this year would you recommend that we see?
Yep. And I think, as a plan going ahead is to keep updating this list of everything new we see, so things might be bumped down or bumped up as we add more and more.
I want to end each video with a fun question.
Do you have a fun question?
Yeah, well, I've asked this to you a few times, and we've discussed it a little bit, so that we could, like, talk about it, and then we could, like, ask people to leave.
Is this a fun question for me or for the camera?
That's what I said. Well, I said, like, we can mention it now, and then, like, people can, like, comment what they think below. It's my question of, if they had to make a Muppets movie, like another Muppets movie, one member, it was like a remake of a film that already exists.
Yeah.
One cast member would stay the same and human.
Yeah.
What film are you making?
I mean, looking at this list,
It doesn't have to be from this list.
Well, no, but I love the idea of Longlegs with only Maker Monroe as a real human.
Who would be Longlegs? Kermit?
Yeah. I'd love that.
Shaun of the Dead.
The Strangers as well would be great. Or it's just one real person being haunted by Muppets.
I think Shaun of the Dead would be fun, and the only human is Ed.
Yeah. Or even Pete would be fun as the only human.
Beaker would make the perfect David, though.
Yeah, I could see that. Those are probably the best ones from this list.
Yeah. Or, like, the Crow, but he's fighting for, like, Miss Piggy.
That would be quite good, yeah. Yeah.
Monkey Man.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, what would your films be then?
Yeah.
I very much like the idea of Longlegs.
I think I like the idea of the Strangers.
Yeah, I do.
Or, like, even in a Violent Nature, where you're just following one...
What, just a Muppet?
One Muppet walking
bouncing
through the woods.
About.
The only human is the man that gets put in the wood trimmer thing.
Yeah. Alright, that's our video then. Let us know what you think to all of those questions.
And what Muppet movie should be made.
Yep, like the video. You're supposed to do that. You're supposed to subscribe. I'm supposed to tell you to do that. And otherwise, I'm supposed to say goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye.